Chapter 21. Within the spirit sea, thunder dragons surged. The demonic shadow of the heavenly demon could only tremble under the onslaught of the lightning dragon. What? Hearing Ning Tian's hearty laughter, the heavenly demon's heart skipped a beat. Shock flashed across his eyes. This kid is so powerful. This kid actually did the opposite and deliberately lured him into his body. Because this kid knew that with the thunder calamity spirit meridian in his body, souls were most afraid of the thunder calamity. It was impossible for him to be possessed. Moreover, he actually wanted to do the opposite, using the enormous energy of the heavenly demon's soul to cultivate. Indeed. What the heavenly demon was thinking was what Ning Tian was thinking. When the heavenly demon rushed over, he was still worried that Luo Wuqing would make a move and not let the heavenly demon enter his body. Anyway, with the thunder calamity spirit meridian in his body, he didn't believe that he couldn't electrocute a mere soul to death. You shocked the heavenly demon. Soul-destroying technique. Destroy the soul. Convert the energy of the soul into energy and strengthen yourself. Soul-destroying technique? Ning Tian's lips curled up slightly. Then the heavenly demon was finished. Heavenly demon, weren't you arrogant? Why aren't you arrogant anymore? Ning Tian's mocking voice rang out from the spirit sea. You. Hearing Ning Tian's proud voice, the heavenly demon was so angry that he gritted his teeth. He thought that he could possess a god's physique. But who would have thought that this guy had the thunder calamity in his body? Looking at the 199 thunder dragons above the spirit sea that were staring at him, the heavenly demon broke out in cold sweat and felt an invisible pressure. He had never heard of anyone who could use the thunder calamity as a spirit meridian. Soul-destroying technique. Ning Tian didn't waste any time and directly activated the soul-destroying technique. Soul-destroying technique has been activated. In an instant, the spirit sea instantly surged and the 199 thunder calamity spirit meridian turned into 199 thunder dragons. They opened their mouths and revealed their sharp teeth. Lightning flashed all over their bodies as they attacked the heavenly demon. Not good. The heavenly demon swallowed his saliva with difficulty when he saw the 199 lightning dragons coming at him with terrifying power. Lightning tribulation. If one was not careful, it could really cause one's soul to scatter. Sky Demon Palm. 13 styles of the Sky Demon. Sky Devil Fist. At this moment, the heavenly demon unleashed everything he had learned in his life. However, even though he had the power of an emperor god, he was only a soul body. Especially in the face of the heaven and earth lightning tribulation, he could not unleash even half of his power. Boom. Any random thunder dragon's sharp claw could shatter his attack. Damn it. Seeing this scene, the heavenly demon felt aggrieved. He clearly had the strength of a god emperor, but because his soul was completely suppressed by the heaven and earth lightning tribulation, he couldn't even unleash half of his strength, let alone 10% of his strength. Hee, heavenly demon, stop struggling and obediently become the energy of my heavenly god record. Within the spirit sea, Ning Tian's mocking laughter rang out again. Brat, I'll definitely kill you. The Sky Fiend was exasperated. He was clearly a god emperor, but now, he was about to become the energy of a black martial master. Aggrieved. Most likely, he was the god emperor who had died the most tragic death. Soul extinguishing skill. Activate. 199 thunder tribulations appeared continuously. In an instant, 199 thunder dragons rushed over and bit the heavenly demon's body, scattering his soul power bit by bit. In the spirit sea, the heavenly demon kept screaming. In the outside world, seeing Ning Tian shrouded in black fog, Luo Wuqing frowned slightly. She was a little conflicted. This guy had desecrated her body, and now, he couldn't bring the heavenly demon book. He shouldn't be left in this world. But why forget it? Luo Wuqing sighed faintly. She couldn't just watch this guy be possessed by the heavenly demon. She channeled the spiritual energy in her hands, planning to break the shield and forcibly pull the heavenly demon out of his body. However, at that moment, Before she could make a move, she heard a shattering sound. She saw that the black light shield covering Ning Tian's body was shattered in an instant, and on Ning Tian's body, waves of black light flowed. Luo Wuqing frowned slightly. She glanced at Ning Tian, then walked over. She could tell at a glance that this guy wasn't possessed. Placing her hand on Ning Tian's forehead, Luo Wuqing closed her eyes slightly and immediately saw what was happening in Ning Tian's spirit sea. This guy, Luo Wuqing's eyes flashed with a hint of astonishment. Ning Tian actually trapped the heavenly demon in the spirit sea and continuously used the Thunder Tribulation's spiritual vein to devour the heavenly demon's soul power bit by bit. I have to say, this guy is quite interesting. Luo Wuqing's lips curled up slightly, looking at Ning Tian with interest. She wanted to see if Ning Tian could completely devour the heavenly demon's power. In the spirit sea, Ning Tian's consciousness was excitedly commanding the thunder dragons to devour the heavenly demon's soul. At this moment, the heavenly demon was beyond recognition. More than half of its power was devoured, and it didn't even have the strength to scold Ning Imo Hihi. With so much soul power, it should be able to transform into a lot of spiritual energy. At that time, I can upgrade the heavenly god record to another level. Ning Tian thought happily in his heart. In his mind, an electronic voice sounded. System, host, don't be happy too early. This heavenly demon is an emperor god expert. With your strength, there is only one outcome if you want to devour the spiritual energy. Ning Tian was stunned, and he had a bad feeling in his heart. What outcome? System. Self-destruction. Ning Tian. System, are you playing with me? Why didn't you say so earlier? Looking at the last thunder dragon happily devouring the last bit of soul power of the heavenly demon soul, Ning Tian's handsome face turned as black as charcoal. System, it's okay. Anyway, the Empress is your wife. You won't die. Ning Tian, so, the system saw that the Empress is my wife, so you want to trick me? If Luo Wuqing didn't want to save him, wouldn't he have to self-destruct? At this moment, the side effects that the system mentioned started to appear. When the heavenly demon's soul power was devoured by the thunder spirit veins, Ning Tian suddenly felt his body burning up, and the energy in his body started to become restless. His spirit sea started to boil like boiling water. It's over. This time, he was really going to self-destruct. In the outside world, Luo Wuqing, who was originally paying close attention to Ning Tian, suddenly felt a burning sensation. This burning sensation was coming from Ning Tian's body. This guy, Luo Wuqing's eyes flashed with a hint of seriousness. She didn't expect that Ning Tian would really devour the heavenly demon's soul power in such a short period of time. This guy, wasn't he afraid of self-destruction? With the strength of a black martial master, he dared to devour the soul power of an emperor god. Forget it. Luo Wuqing sighed. While she was hesitating, she saw Ning Mo's body gradually expanding. She stopped hesitating and walked forward. In an instant, a soft and cool sensation touched Ning Tian's lips. Then, an endless stream of violent spiritual energy flowed through the passage and into Ning Tian's body. Chapter 22. As the endless violent spiritual energy gradually flowed out of his body, Ning Tian gradually woke up, and the heat in his body slowly disappeared. Soft, so soft. When Ning Tian woke up, he felt a soft and cold sensation on his lips, and a burst of fragrance assailed his nose. He subconsciously opened his eyes. In an instant, he was shocked. There was only one thought in his mind. I was King kissed by my wife. At this time, Luo Wuqing opened her eyes slightly and saw Ning Tian staring at her with his big eyes. She was a little angry. She slightly gritted her silver teeth and directly bit Ning Tian's lips. Ning Tian thought, the Empress bit me. Ning Tian wanted to struggle, but in his mind, Luo Wuqing's telepathic message sounded. If you want to self-destruct, continue to move. Even if it was telepathic message, her voice was so cold. Hearing this, Ning Tian was stunned. She was helping him relieve the huge amount of violent spiritual energy? He sensed it a little. Indeed, The violent spiritual energy in his body was continuously flowing from Ning Tian's mouth into Luo Wuqing's body. Although it felt a little strange and disgusting, but this was the fastest way. If he hesitated, Ning Tian's body would explode from the violent spiritual energy. Ning Tian couldn't help but sigh. The system was right. Even if there was the danger of the violent spiritual energy exploding, he really wouldn't die. Who asked his wife to be the empress? Sorry. With the system and the empress as his wife, he could really do whatever he wanted. The spiritual energy was still being absorbed. Ning Tian also enjoyed the soft red lips. But, wifey, can you loosen those silver teeth of yours that are biting my lower lip? Ning Tian was going crazy. But unfortunately, he wasn't strong enough to use telepathic message, so he could only think about it in his heart. Half an hour later. Finally, in a strange position, the violent spiritual energy transformed from the soul energy in Ning Tian's body was completely absorbed by Luo Wuqing. However, Ning Tian's lower lip was basically dead and became numb. Phew! It's finally over. Ning Tian breathed a sigh of relief. Although the process was exciting, it wasn't good in the long run. At the very least, this thing was useless. Luo Wuqing lightly pushed Ning Tian away, then spread out her jade hands and slowly blew a breath. A pale white jade bead appeared in her red lips. Here for you. Luo Wuqing gave it to Ning Tian. This is... Looking at the white jade bead in his hand, Ning Tian's eyes flashed with a touch of doubt. Luo Wuqing glanced at the white jade bead and said, "This is the soul origin bead formed by the soul energy. It contains the spiritual energy of the heavenly demon. You can use this to absorb and cultivate every day." Speaking of this, she paused for a moment and warned, "Remember, don't absorb too much at once. Cultivation is a gradual cycle. You can't absorb too much at once. I won't be by your side every time you are in danger of self-destruction." At this moment, Luo Wuqing was like a teacher, teaching Ning Tian in every possible way. Luo Wuqing was right. Ning Tian's knowledge of cultivation was far less than Luo Wuqing's. He was still a cultivation rookie. Luo Wuqing was already a master on the path of cultivation. I know. Ning Tian was silent for a while, nodded, and smiled at Luo Wuqing. "Wife, thank you." The two looked at each other. Luo Wuqing was stunned for a moment, and then nodded. The young man in front of her, who looked very bright and handsome when he smiled, seemed to have become somewhat pleasing to the eye in her eyes. "Wife." Ning Tian played with the soul origin bead in his hand and suddenly said, "Luo Wuqing looked over in confusion. "We killed the heavenly demon. Does that count as deceiving the master and destroying the ancestor?" Ning Tian asked. In any case, the heavenly demon was the founder of the Tiamat cult. In any case, his soul had the strength of the God Emperor realm. Although he was tricked by Ning Tian and killed by the thunder tribulation of heaven and earth, he was still the first cult master of the Tiamat cult. "It doesn't count." Luo Wuqing shook her head. Then, with a palm, she smashed the heavenly demon's spirit tablet into pieces. This guy set the ancestral teachings and deceived several generations of Tiamat cult masters in order to fulfill his own selfish desires. He is no longer worthy of being a member of the Tiamat cult. A cold light flashed in Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes. Hearing this, Ning Tian nodded. Suddenly, he frowned. He felt an expanding energy in his body that was constantly rushing. Was he going to break through? Ning Tian's eyes lit up with joy. "Wife, I'm going to break through first." After saying this to Luo Wuqing, Ning Tian sat cross-legged without hesitation and immediately began to cultivate. There was still a lot of residual spiritual energy in his body. This amount of spiritual energy was enough for him to break through. A glint flashed across Luo Wuqing's eyes as he watched Ning Tian enter a state of cultivation in a hurry. This guy, in a few days, broke through several realms. This speed was a bit fast. On the path of cultivation, the martial artist and black martial master realms were completely transitional stages for the physical body. Only after reaching the spirit detecting realm, when one's perception of spiritual energy reached a certain level, would the difficulty of cultivation increase. But even so, The martial artist and black martial master realms were still a hurdle that many people found difficult to cross. Ning Tian was able to break through in just a few days. This speed was something that few people could achieve. As expected of the heavenly god physique, Luo Wuqing attributed all the reasons to the heavenly god physique. It's just that. I didn't think that the heavenly demon book was just a lie made up by the heavenly demon to possess the heavenly god physique. Without the guide to becoming a god, the righteous path is invading. What should I do? Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes flashed with a hint of worry. She looked at Ning Tian, sighed faintly, and slowly left. Forget it, forget it. Counter soldiers with arms, water with an earth weir. Even if there is no god realm, even if my heavenly demon is destroyed, I will still teach them a painful lesson. At this moment, Ning Tian was sitting cross-legged, circulating his spiritual energy. With 199 thunder tribulation spirit veins circulating his spiritual energy, the efficiency was very fast. Even the speed of his breakthrough was constantly increasing. Ding! In his mind, the system's beautiful electronic voice kept ringing. Congratulations, host, for breaking through to 8-star Black Martial Master. Congratulations, host, for breaking through to 9-star Black Martial Master. Host, for breaking through. Congratulations, host, for breaking through to 1-star Spirit Detecting Realm. Phew. Ning Tian slowly opened his eyes and gently exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. After breaking through to the Spirit Detecting Realm, Ning Tian immediately felt that his perception of spiritual energy had become much more sensitive. Even the pores on his body could sense spiritual energy. However, there was also a problem. The amount of spiritual energy required to advance by 1 star was even more. After breaking through the physical martial Tao realm and reaching the true spirit realm, the difficulty of cultivation in the future would greatly increase. He slowly got up, but the beautiful figure beside him was gone. Looks like she should have left, Ning Tian muttered. Then, he patted the dust off his body and left the back mountain of the Tianma cult. Chapter 23. A few days passed. Ning Tian's image in the Tianma cult instantly changed from a useless disciple to a mysterious and omnipotent patriarch. In particular, the news of him using the thunderbolts to open 199 spirit veins in the scripture depository had spread throughout the heavenly demon cult. Many disciples had become Ning Tian's loyal fans. There was even a slogan circulating in the Tianma cult. With the patriarch, there was no surprise. The Tianma cult's actions and the terror of the thunder tribulation that day were still in the hearts of many leaders of the Tianma domain. Many forces that didn't want to become enemies with the Tianma cult had already decided to show goodwill to the Tianma cult by sending their prodigies to the Tianma cult to discuss Tao. Tao discussion was divided into literature and martial arts. It was about the Tao of cultivation. It was a relatively friendly way of communication among cultivators. The Shadow Demon Sect. In the Tianma domain, there were righteous and demonic sections. If the Tianma cult was the leader of the demonic sects, then the Shadow Demon Sect could be called the second. At this moment, in the Shadow Demon Sect, unlike the Tianma cult, the Shadow Demon Sect was located in the dark forest, which was eerie and strange. It was very close to the name of the sect, Shadow Demon. A gust of cold wind blew past. In the main hall of the Shadow Demon Sect, an old man with an aquiline nose stood with his hands behind his back. His eyes were gloomy and cold. Behind him was a young man with a fair face. From afar, he looked somewhat feminine. If it wasn't for his Adam's apple, one would think that he was a woman. Sect Master, I'm here. The feminine young man looked at the old man with an aquiline nose and said slowly, Well, it's good that you're here. The old man with an aquiline nose nodded. He looked at the feminine young man and said, 30. Did you break through again? Yes, Sect Master. 30 nodded and smiled gently. Now, I'm half a step away from the Earth King stage. I'm already at the peak of the Spirit Detecting stage. Half a step away from the Earth King realm? Hearing this, the hook-nosed old man smiled in relief. The strength of an Earth King was the status of an ordinary elder among the many forces in the entire heavenly spirit region. San was only 20 years old, but he was already comparable to those elders who were 50 years old. With such potential, if he was nurtured a little, he would have a candidate for the position of the future successor of the Shadow Devil sect. 30. The hook-nosed old man looked at Inshiba and asked, "Have you heard anything about the Tianma cult recently?" "Disciple has heard of it." In 30 nodded. "That day, when the thunder tribulation shook, the dark clouds covered the sun. I happened to witness it." AI. The hook-nosed elder sighed. "The Tianma cult is getting stronger and stronger, and with the Empress holding the fort, my shadow demon sect really can't make a comeback." Hearing this, In 30 fell silent. 30. Do you think the Tianma cult is worthy of being the leader of the demon cult? The hook-nosed old man's eyes flashed as he looked at In 30 and asked, "This disciple is slow-witted and doesn't dare to interfere in the struggle between sections." In 30 pondered for a moment and slowly shook his head. Ha ha ha. Hearing In 30's words, the hook-nosed old man looked at him more and more pleasing to the eye, and the admiration in his eyes grew stronger. In 30 also knew that this kind of topic was completely unqualified for a small disciple like him, so he used very tactful words to answer. Not bad. This was the disciple he valued. Don't be afraid. The hook-nosed old man patted In 30's shoulder and laughed. This is my Shadow Devil sect. No matter what you say, it doesn't matter. Just say it boldly. In 30 nodded and pondered for a moment. Disciple is untalented and feels that the Tianma cult is worthy of being the leader of the demon cult, but also not worthy of being the leader of the demon cult. Worthy of being, not worthy? The hook-nosed old man muttered to himself and looked at In 30 in confusion. What do you mean? Isn't this conflicting? Not really. In 30 shook his head and said unhurriedly, Sect Master, please listen to this disciple slowly. Disciple feels that the Tianma cult is powerful, with thousands of disciples and countless elders, and even the Empress. In terms of strength, it is indeed worthy of being the leader of the demon cult. Among the demon cult, there is no force stronger than the Tianma cult. But here comes the problem. Although the Tianma cult is a demon cult and cultivates demon techniques, their actions and style of doing things are not demon cult. The demon cult is bloodthirsty, but the Tianma cult is not. They only focus on cultivating demon techniques. This kind of demon cult is not suitable to be the leader of the demon cult in the Tianling domain. That is disciple's opinion. In 30 said slowly, a demon cult is a demon cult that wants to kill and be bloodthirsty. This was the style of the demon cult in the Tianling domain. However, after the Empress of the Tianma cult ascended to the throne, the Tianma cult did not kill or be bloodthirsty, but became stronger and stronger. This had already made many demon cult forces unhappy. However, they were afraid of the strength of the Tianma cult, so they could only be angry but did not dare to say anything. Which demon cult person did not have blood on their hands? Although In 30 looked weak and powerless, in fact, his hands were also stained with blood. His hands were stained with the blood of an innocent village. When In 30 finished speaking, the hawk-nosed old man was stunned, and a light flashed in his eyes. Immediately, he laughed loudly. Ha ha ha, what a good opinion. In 30's words directly hit the hawk-nosed old man's heart. Now that the Tianma cult is running amok, although it is a demon cult, it does not do anything. If this goes on, won't the demon cult in the Tianling domain exist in name only? Humph. The mere little girl wants to lead the Tianma cult to become the leader of the demon cult. The atmosphere of the demon cult has been corrupted. The hawk-nosed old man's eyes flashed with viciousness, and he looked indignant. He was also an Emperor Realm expert, but his strength was only at the 7 stars Emperor Realm, and Luo Wuqing was at the peak Emperor Realm. Being pressed down on by a woman made him very unhappy. Sect Master, what you mean is... In 30 was stunned. He frowned slightly. Why did he feel that the sect master was about to do something big? Hee hee. Wait for a good show. The hawk-nosed old man sneered. There are already many old devils in the demon cult who are dissatisfied with the Empress. It is said that many forces will send their geniuses to the Tianma cult tomorrow to discuss the Tao. If the demon cult forces tomorrow, the Empress will lose her dignity. Do you think the Tianma cult can still be the leader of the demon cult? Hiss. En30 was shocked. He did not expect that many demon cult forces already had the idea of forcing the Empress to abdicate. Moreover, it was when many forces were going to the Tianma cult to discuss the Tao. At that time, if they succeeded, the Empress's dignity would be shattered instantly. At that time, as the second strongest sect in the demon cult, they could naturally become the leader of the demon cult. Then Sect Master, what do you mean by calling me here? En30 narrowed his eyes and looked at the hawk-nosed old man in confusion. Chapter 24. Hee. The hook-nosed old man laughed strangely. I called you here today to discuss the Tao and the Tianma cult. However, it's not a real discussion. It's a discussion of the Tao. We want to trample the disciples of the Tianma cult under our feet. It's a show of strength before forcing the abdication. I see. A glimmer of light flashed in En30's eyes as he nodded. This disciple understands. Well, you can go now. Remember to discuss the Tao in the Tianma cult tomorrow. Hee. Yes. After En30 left, the hook-nosed old man sneered. Luo Wuqing, oh Luo Wuqing, let's see how you can get out of this situation tomorrow. How can a little girl like you be the leader of the devil sect? The leader should be my shadow devil sect. At night, Ning Tian leaned against the window and looked at the beautiful figure in the room, who seemed to be taking off her clothes through the candlelight. He was very excited. One more piece, just one more piece. But it seemed that his thoughts could be heard. The beautiful figure in the room immediately stopped moving. Then, a cold voice sounded. If you want to die, keep looking. Hearing Luo Wuqing's threatening cold words, Ning Tian curled his lips and said stubbornly, if you don't want to look, then don't look. Who cares? Tonight is the night of the full moon. Then you can sleep outside tonight. As Luo Wuqing's words sounded, the whole room was instantly sealed by spiritual energy. Ning Tian, you hate me. Luo Wuqing. Ning Tian was indignant. At this moment, the system's beautiful voice sounded in his mind. Host, why are you angry? Tonight is the night of the full moon. It's a good time to cultivate. The night of the full moon? Ning Tian was surprised. It seemed that Luo Wuqing had also said that tonight was a full moon night. Yes. Your wife is encouraging you to go out and cultivate so that you can tell her in the future that her husband is the most important person in the world, the system said earnestly. System, why do I feel like you're very knowledgeable? Ning Tian's face darkened. Hearing the system's tone of an experienced big brother, he couldn't help but feel a little strange. The system replied, of course. Do you think I don't understand the little emotions you humans have? All right. Ning Tian mumbled. The system was exceptionally talkative today. He might as well be a silent and heartless cheat machine. The system replied, Host, I know what you're thinking. Ning Tian was speechless. All right, I got it. I'll go cultivate now. Within Tianma cult, on the highest cliff, Moonlight Cliff, the dragon flashed and soon, a figure appeared on it. Look, there's a figure on the cliff. It looks like the founder. The founder? Is it really the founder? It's so late. Why is the founder still here? Looking at the founder's posture, it seems like he's cultivating. Oh my God. It's so late, but the founder is still cultivating. As expected of the founder, he's so hard-working. The appearance of a figure on the cliff naturally attracted the attention of many Tianma cult disciples. When they saw that it was Ning Tian, they immediately worshipped Ning Tian again. On the night of the full moon, the founder didn't sleep on the same bed with the Empress or play the zither to admire the moon. He actually came here to cultivate. This was simply too hard-working. No, the founder is so hard-working. How can we fall? Ning Tian instantly ignited the fighting spirit in the group of disciples. One by one, they sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate wholeheartedly. Even some disciples who were preparing to go to the grove with their female companions were filled with fighting spirit. What are you doing? You should learn more from the founder. How hardworking is the founder? In an instant, they abandoned their female companions and said, You can go. I want to cultivate. On the cliff, Ning Tian, who was sitting cross-legged, heard the disciples' discussion and couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. If I hadn't been chased out, who would still want to cultivate? A decent man would abandon his wife and come here to cultivate instead? Is that even possible? While Ning Tian was silently complaining in his heart, the system's notification sounded. You've shocked the disciples and ignited their fighting spirit. Reward, 10 times the moonlight spiritual energy absorption speed. Ning Tian was speechless. This works too. If that's the case, then I'll cultivate in peace. Ning Tian muttered, then activated 10 times the moonlight spiritual energy absorption speed. Activating 10 times the moonlight spiritual energy absorption speed. Current moonlight spiritual energy absorption speed x10. In an instant, Ning Tian immediately felt that when the moonlight shone on his body, the spiritual energy instantly increased. The night of the full moon was the time when the spiritual energy was the most abundant. However, it was difficult to absorb it. However, for Ning Tian, who had 10 times the moonlight spiritual energy absorption speed, this difficulty was not considered difficult. Soon, a large amount of moonlight spiritual energy accumulated around Ning Tian's body. His whole body was as bright as the moon, and the silver light scattered around him. Look at the founder. Ning Tian's abnormality was soon discovered. The group of disciples who were cultivating looked at Ning Tian as if they were looking at a god. Their eyes were full of worship. The founder is really a god. Even the moonlight spiritual energy is rushing to him. In the eyes of the disciples, the huge amount of moonlight spiritual energy was indeed rushing to Ning Tian automatically, for fear that he could not absorb it. Seeing this scene, the crowd was stunned and envious of them. We can't compare. We can't compare. Let's just cultivate in peace. Very soon, a strange scene appeared at the moonlight cliff. On the cliff, a person sat cross-legged. Silver light covered his body, and he looked very holy. Below the cliff, a group of people sat cross-legged and concentrated on cultivating until midnight. Because some elders of the Tiamat cult were afraid that the disciples would use the nighttime to eat, drink, and play, and thus delay the cultivation during the day, they would patrol at night. If they caught a disciple outside, they would punish him to face the wall. Today, the Grand Elder was patrolling in person. Not bad, not bad. In the sky, the Grand Elder flew on his sword, stroking his beard with great satisfaction. He had already patrolled more than half of the Tiamat cult. He did not meet a single disciple outside. It seems that the disciples of our Tianma cult are really getting more and more self-control. The Grand Elder smiled with satisfaction. Next location, Moonlight Cliff. There is a large forest there, and there are often male and female disciples making love. If I meet them, I will cut off their tools. As the Grand Elder spoke, he had already arrived at Moonlight Cliff. This is when he saw a large group of disciples sitting cross-legged at the foot of Moonlight Cliff and cultivating. He could not help but turn pale with fright. How could these brats have such a high level of awareness to cultivate under a full moon? He could not help but be secretly shocked. At this moment, a disciple below seemed to have seen him and waved at him. The Grand Elder landed. Why are you all cultivating here? The Grand Elder asked. Sure. The disciple did not answer him. Instead, he made a shushing gesture to him. Grand Elder, lower your voice. Don't disturb the Patriarch's cultivation. Patriarch? The Grand Elder was stunned. Then, he suddenly raised his head, and his expression instantly became very interesting. He saw Ning Tian sitting cross-legged. The silver light on his body was as bright as the Milky Way. Looking at his posture, he was actually cultivating. F***CK. Thousands of alpacas galloped through the Grand Elder's mind. The Patriarch is actually leading the cultivation. Chapter 25. What's going on? Grand Elder still couldn't believe that the Patriarch was cultivating at this time. He didn't believe that these disciples would cultivate too. Usually, when he asked these disciples to cultivate, no one would respond. But at this moment, they were cultivating with the Patriarch here? What the hell? You guys. Before Grand Elder could finish his words, he saw the disciple waving his hand and interrupting him. The disciple looked at Ning Tian on the cliff with a sincere face, as if he was looking at a god. Grand Elder, you don't have to say much. We've seen how hard-working the patriarch is. As disciples of the Tianma cult, how can we not work hard? Grand Elder. The disciple's words were very convincing, and his voice was full of tears. Grand Elder, do you want to cultivate together? The disciple looked at Grand Elder. No. No need. Grand Elder's mouth twitched and he waved his hand. This old man is old. I can't stay up late like you young people. That's a pity. The disciple shook his head and said regretfully, the sky is dark and the wind is strong. It's a good time to cultivate, Grand Elder. Grand Elder was speechless. He thought that these disciples must have gone crazy today. Just as he was about to leave, suddenly, on the moonlight cliff, the silver light of the moon sprinkled down, and a huge amount of spiritual energy began to gather in the body of the person sitting cross-legged. Grand Elder's eyes turned cold, and he looked over. He saw that Ning Tian's body seemed to be draped in a moonlight divine robe. The spiritual energy around him was circulating, and the silver light moved with the spiritual energy. The huge amount of spiritual energy revolved around him. Is the patriarch about to break through? Grand Elder was slightly surprised when he saw this scene. He felt strange. Why was the patriarch breaking through as easy as drinking water? The scene on the moonlight cliff alarmed many disciples who were sitting cross-legged and cultivating. They all widened their eyes and looked at the figure on the cliff excitedly. I didn't expect the patriarch to break through so soon. He's amazing. He's really a role model for our generation. I heard that the patriarch just broke through to the psychic realm a few days ago. It's only been a few days, and there are faint signs of a breakthrough. Perhaps this is the difference between us and the patriarch. The disciples discussed animatedly. On the moonlight cliff, moonlight and spiritual energy blended together. Ning Tian sat down cross-legged, revolving the heavenly god record and absorbing a massive amount of spiritual energy. And in his palm, one could faintly see a white jade bead. It was the soul origin orb formed from the heavenly demon soul body's energy. With the support of the moonlight spirit energy and the continuous absorption of the enormous spirit energy from the soul origin bead, Ning Tian vaguely showed signs of a breakthrough. Boom! When the spiritual energy in his body broke through his defenses, Ning Tian's face lit up with joy. He was about to break through. Host breakthrough. Congratulations to the host for making another breakthrough and reaching 2-star spirit detecting state. The system's beautiful electronic voice echoed in his mind. Instantly, Ning Tian's aura rose by a large margin. Who? Awesome. Ning Tian opened his eyes, which flashed with a bright light, and muttered to himself, at this speed, will I be able to break through to the Earth King realm in 2 months? What? 2 months to break through from the spirit detecting state to the Earth King realm. Hiss! The group of disciples, including the Great Elder, sucked in a breath of cold air. However, 2 months is still a bit long. On the cliff, the murmur sounded again. All the disciples, the Great Elder, they were incomparably mad in their hearts. Breaking through from the spirit detecting state to the Earth King realm in 2 months was already very abnormal. But now you're saying that 2 months is too long. It's really infuriating to compare oneself to others. The Great Elder's heart went crazy, and he was so angry that he almost vomited blood. When he broke through from the spirit detecting state to the Earth King realm, it took him a full 2 years. 2 years. Even if it was 2 years, him at that time was considered to be one of the fastest among his peers. As Ning Tian muttered to himself, the system's beautiful electronic voice sounded in his mind again. You've shocked all the disciples and the Great Elder. Reward. Faith cultivation. Faith cultivation. When there are believers around and you cultivate with them, the believer's cultivation speed will be doubled, and the spiritual energy of the believer's cultivation will be replenished by the host. Oh? Faith cultivation? There's such a good thing? Hearing the system's words, Ning Tian's eyes widened. But when it came to believers, he seemed to have no shortage of believers in the Tianma cult. Faith cultivation. Activate. In an instant, A golden light array that only Ning Tian could see appeared and instantly enveloped the surrounding disciples, and he was at the center of the golden light array. After stretching, Ning Tian slowly got up. He found the Great Elder staring at him from below. "Great Elder, you're also here to cultivate on the night of the full moon?" Ning Tian asked with a smile. "No." The Great Elder waved his hand and said indifferently, in reply to the ancestral master, "This old man is just patrolling to see if there are any disciples who don't return home at night." "Oh? Then these disciples don't count. Cultivating with me shouldn't count as not returning home at night, right?" Ning Tian looked at the Great Elder with a smile. The disciples' hearts tightened. If they were taken away by the Great Elder, they would have to face the wall and reflect on their mistakes. Now, these disciples could only pray that the ancestral master could protect them. The Great Elder hesitated, then looked at Ning Tian and shook his head. He still had to give face to the ancestral master. This naturally doesn't count. The ancestral master took the lead to cultivate under the moonlight. This kind of hard work, how can it be considered not returning home at night? Ahem. This old man still has other places to patrol, so I won't disturb the ancestral master. After saying that, the Great Elder's spiritual sword appeared, and he was about to leave. "Great Elder, don't you want to stay and cultivate with me? If you cultivate with me today, you might gain a lot." Ning Tian looked at the Great Elder. If he could turn the Great Elder into his disciple and cultivate in the disciple cultivation formation, then with the Great Elder's strength, the spirit chi he would gain would be very dense. To Ning Tian, the Great Elder was equivalent to a fat sheep. He couldn't let him go so easily. The Great Elder was stunned and looked at Ning Tian strangely. He couldn't help but mutter in his heart, "Why does the ancestral master look like he wants to eat me?" The Great Elder shook his head and was about to refuse when he suddenly heard an excited shout. "Damn, I'm about to break through. Me too. How is this possible? I only broke through to 3-star Black Martial Master a few days ago. I broke through too. This must be the ancestral master's blessing. The ancestral master is awesome." In the next second, the disciples who were cultivating with Ning Tian were all excited. They could clearly feel the spirit chi in their bodies circulating. This was clearly the sign of a breakthrough. Chapter 26. For a moment, many disciples felt the spiritual energy in their bodies surging. This was a sign that they were about to break through. All of a sudden, the surrounding disciples were extremely excited. They looked at Ning Tian with burning eyes. "This must be the blessing of the ancestral master. With my aptitude, how could I cultivate so quickly?" As more and more people broke through, the surrounding disciples instantly felt that all of this was the ancestral master's blessing. A person's breakthrough could be explained by his high aptitude. However, a group of people breaking through together could not be explained by aptitude. This must be the ancestral master's blessing. The ancestral master is awesome. The ancestral master is forever a god. As more and more disciples were filled with faith in Ning Tian, they clearly felt that the spiritual energy in their bodies was twice as much as usual. "Damn, I also broke through. Amazing, amazing. I haven't broken through for a whole year. Today, I actually broke through. I finally got rid of my identity as a martial artist." A disciple's face was red with excitement. "This must be the ancestral master's blessing. This is simply amazing." For a moment, those who were filled with faith in Ning Tian broke through one after another in a few minutes or dozens of minutes. Many people were simply worshipping Ning Tian as if he was a god. As long as they believed in the ancestral master, they could break through. What's going on? The Great Elder was dumbfounded. Seeing this scene, his heart trembled violently. Not only could they cultivate together, but they could also break through together. What kind of day was it today? Feeling that his body was constantly filled with spiritual energy, the corners of Ning Tian's mouth lifted slightly. He looked at the Great Elder and said, "How is it, Great Elder? As I said, if you follow me and cultivate, you will definitely gain something." Gulp. Looking at the confident smile on Ning Tian's face, The great elder swallowed his saliva with difficulty. All of this was indeed related to the ancestral master. The great elder's face flushed red. He was extremely excited. With this ancestral master, the Tianma cult was simply blessed by the heavens. Ahem. The great elder coughed dryly and said with a red face, originally, I don't advocate cultivating at night. However, since the ancestral master has invited me so kindly, I naturally can't embarrass you. After saying that, he walked towards a certain direction. Then, he sat down cross-legged. Ning Tian couldn't help but laugh when he saw the first elder's expression. He didn't expect the first elder to be such a tsundere. After that, he didn't waste any more time, and he sat down cross-legged and started cultivating. Currently, there were 3 types of enormous spiritual qi in his body. The moonlight spirit qi, the spirit qi of the soul origin orb, and the spirit qi from the cultivation of faith. This spiritual qi couldn't be wasted. After the Grand Elder walked over, he sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate. However, for some reason, he didn't feel the double speed that the disciples had mentioned. Could it be that my cultivation method is wrong? The Great Elder was confused. He looked left and right. However, it was still the same. At this moment, a disciple at the side couldn't stand it anymore and reminded him in a low voice, Great Elder, you have to shout that the founder is awesome. Huh, why is that? The Grand Elder was stunned and looked at this disciple in confusion. I don't know. The disciple shook his head and muttered, anyway, as long as you shout that the founder is awesome, you will be able to feel the double speed of spiritual qi absorption. Is that so? The Grand Elder was silent for a moment and gritted his teeth. Shouting like this, wouldn't it damage his image as the Grand Elder? But, looking at the excited disciples cultivating, he could not help but feel restless. Forget it, it was a warning. The Grand Elder took a deep breath and channeled qi into his dantian. Then, he opened his mouth wide and let out a roar that instantly resounded throughout the entire moonlight cliff. Founder is awesome. Bang! For a moment, everyone's gaze fell on the Grand Elder. The First Elder's old face instantly flushed red. This was 2F** King embarrassing. Boom! At this moment, the Grand Elder seemed to see a ray of holy light shining on him. Then, the spiritual qi absorption in his body that was originally slow instantly accelerated. Damn! It really works. Amazing! The Grand Elder's eyes flashed with excitement. He quickly sat down cross-legged. At this time, there was no need for dignity. Cultivating was the most important thing. Under the moonlight cliff, a group of disciples began to cultivate. The next day, a rumor instantly ignited the entire Tianma cult. Last night, under the moonlight cliff, the founder led the Grand Elder and a group of disciples to cultivate. The most amazing thing was that as long as they shouted that the founder was awesome, their cultivation speed would be doubled. For a moment, many disciples were excitedly experimenting. That was why the Sky Demon cult's morning that should have been peaceful was instantly broken by waves of the ancestral master's awesome cries. Some of the celestial spirit region's experts who passed by the Tianma cult were astonished. The founder was awesome? Could this be another cultivation method invented by the Tianma cult? These waves of the founder's awesome voices continued to reverberate throughout the Tianma cult. It wasn't until a burst of Emperor Realm aura suddenly emanated from the depths of the Tianma cult that the disciples hurriedly shut their mouths. They were also puzzled. Why was it useless to shout that the founder was awesome? Of course, it was useless. Ning Tian wasn't within the range of service, and he hadn't activated the faith cultivation array. At this moment, Ning Tian had already come down from the moonlight cliff. After returning to his room, he found that Luo Wuqing was long gone. He simply burrowed into the blanket that still carried Luo Wuqing's aura and prepared to go back to sleep. Tianma cult, conference hall. Everyone. Is everyone here? Luo Wuqing looked indifferently at the group of elders in the conference hall and asked. The group of elders looked at each other, then at each other. An elder walked out, saluted Luo Wuqing and said, reporting to the Empress, the Grand Elder hasn't arrived yet. Grand Elder? Luo Wuqing was stunned and frowned slightly. Today was the day that many forces of the heavenly spirit region came to the Tianma cult to discuss the Tao. They were supposed to discuss, but why was the Grand Elder, who had always been serious, late? At this moment, a voice sounded, and an old man ran over anxiously. Phew, Empress, this old man is here. The person who came was the Grand Elder. Grand Elder, why are you late? Luo Wuqing frowned slightly and looked at the Grand Elder unhappily. The Grand Elder scratched his head awkwardly and smiled bitterly. I didn't sleep last night. I followed the founder to cultivate under the moonlight cliff, so I was a little late. Cultivated with the founder? Hearing the Grand Elder's words, the surrounding elders couldn't help but feel a little puzzled. As a holy emperor expert, the Grand Elder shouldn't have cultivated with the founder, right? Also, Grand Elder, do you know that all the Tianma cult disciples shouted that the founder was awesome this morning? What does that have to do with last night's cultivation? At this moment, an elder looked at the Grand Elder with a questioning gaze. The Grand Elder smiled awkwardly. Because last night, as long as some people cultivated with the founder and shouted that the founder was awesome, their cultivation speed would increase, and many disciples would break through one after another. Chapter 27. Shouting that the Patriarch was awesome would speed up one's cultivation speed? Hearing the Great Elder's words, the expressions of the elders in the hall were as interesting as it could be. Great Elder, is this true? The elders looked at the Great Elder in confusion. Of course. Why would this old man lie to you all? The Great Elder nodded seriously. Then, his aura exploded, and the power of a 6 stars holy emperor instantly filled the entire hall. The Great Elder's aura is much stronger than before. Many elders were secretly shocked. Although the Great Elder did not break through, his strength had increased a lot, and his aura was more stable. Could it be that shouting that the Patriarch was awesome would give them a special bonus? The elders were tempted. If the Empress was not still here, they might have really started shouting. That guy again? Luo Wuqing narrowed her beautiful eyes and was a little shocked. This guy. Yesterday, she just wanted him to take advantage of the full moon night to cultivate and not waste the Tianqian physique. Unexpectedly, this guy actually caused such a big commotion. As a result, all the disciples of the Tianma cult were wailing and howling early in the morning. It's true. Elders, if you have time, you can find the Patriarch to cultivate. It's really useful. The Great Elder said solemnly. Hearing this, the elders nodded. All right, everyone, let's put this matter aside for now. At this time, Luo Wuqing said lightly. The group of elders immediately shut their mouths and stopped talking. The Great Elder also looked at Luo Wuqing. Today, countless geniuses came to the Tianma Dao Symposium. Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes landed on the group of elders as she spoke. Although it's a friendly symposium, I don't want my Tianma cult disciples to be inferior to others. So, elders, please bring your strongest disciples to the symposium. Do you understand? Hearing this, the group of elders nodded fiercely and shouted in unison, We understand. At noon, after Ning Tian woke up, he went to Moonlight Cliff. He discovered that there were already many disciples meditating there. When they saw that Ning Tian had arrived, they were all excited. Their eyes were filled with awe, and their faces were flushed. They all shouted, Ancestor is awesome. Hearing this, Ning Tian's lips curled into a smile. It would be a waste if he didn't accept these believers that were delivered to him. No matter how small a fly was, it was still meat. Immediately after, he activated faith cultivation and began to sit cross-legged on the cliff. Seeing this, the disciples below the cliff hurriedly concentrated on their cultivation. One by one, they could feel the absorption of the spirit qi in their bodies doubling. All of a sudden, the disciples were extremely excited. In his heart, he simply worshipped Ning Tian like a god. Godly. Tianma cult at the mountain gate. As the personal disciple of the Great Elder, Li Changsheng was responsible for receiving the prodigies from the heavenly spirit realm. Outside the mountain gate, many geniuses had come. Some had come on strange beasts, some on spirit tools, and some were personally escorted by saint emperors. In short, there were countless geniuses. From afar, there were actually more than 200 people. This looks like most of the powerful forces in the heavenly spirit realm have sent their disciples here, Li Changsheng muttered, feeling a headache. These young men and women were not ordinary disciples. They could not be treated like ordinary disciples. After all, if these fellows were placed in their own sects, they would all be arrogant and proud. Outside the mountain gate, many geniuses had already gathered, and all of them were chatting happily. At this moment, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard in the sky. They saw a cold-faced young man stepping through the void toward them. Seeing that youth, many geniuses sucked in a breath of cold air. Stepping through the void, that was an ability that only Saint Emperors had. Could this youth be a Saint Emperor powerhouse? Hiss! Many geniuses sucked in a breath of cold air. Soon, someone recognized the identity of that cold-faced youth. That's the High Void Sect's prodigy, Ling Ao. He's using the High Void Sect's ultimate technique, the High Void Steps. Looks like Ling Ao has cultivated the High Void Steps to the extreme. That's why he's able to step through the void without the strength of a Saint Emperor. He's cultivated it to the extreme. A group of geniuses looked enviously at the cold man who descended from the sky. Boom! Suddenly, a cold aura appeared in the sky. Everyone subconsciously shuddered. The weather suddenly turned cold. This can't be that person coming, right? The group of geniuses' faces changed slightly. They seemed to have thought of something when they saw the strange situation. In the sky, a huge crow descended, and a feminine man slowly walked down. His body emitted a cold aura. Many people subconsciously distanced themselves from him. That's Yin San from the Shadow Demon sect. It's said that he once massacred several villages by himself. Men, women, old and young. He didn't let them go. He's a true Devil Dao cultivator. Yin San. Ling Ao's gaze immediately fell on Yin San, and his eyes were filled with the desire to battle. He was a person who was only interested in the strong. He wouldn't even look at the weak. Yin San's appearance immediately attracted his attention. Yin San's expression didn't change. He didn't care about the surrounding geniuses' words and walked to the side of the crowd. Everyone was discussing spiritedly. Li Changsheng frowned slightly and muttered to himself, "Even the Shadow Demon sect's people are here?" The Tiama cult and the Shadow Demon sect had always been on bad terms. Yin San's appearance at this time seemed a little strange. At this moment, heavenly music rose in spirals. A beautiful heavenly music came from the 9 underworlds. Where did this heavenly music come from? Hearing this heavenly music, the geniuses fell silent, but they were puzzled. I didn't expect that the saintess of the Jade Lake sacred ground would also come. Li Changsheng was secretly shocked. The Jade Lake sacred ground was an ordinary sacred ground, and their strength wasn't any weaker than the Tianma cult. However, the Jade Lake sacred ground had always been neutral in the heavenly spirit domain. Even during the Empress wedding, many forces in the heavenly spirit domain had come, but the Jade Lake sacred ground wasn't among them. However, this time, the Jade Lake sacred ground had actually sent their saintess over for a mere sparring session. It's the Jade Lake sacred ground? That's the Yaoqi saintess. Oh my God! I can't believe I saw the goddess of my dreams. At this moment, the geniuses also came to their senses, and they all looked at the sky with excitement. They saw a heavenly steed flying through the sky, dragging a palanquin. The heavenly music was coming from the palanquin. Vaguely, everyone could even see the graceful woman inside the palanquin. A heavenly steed palanquin. It's really the saintess of the Jade Lake sacred ground. Many geniuses were secretly shocked. This sparring session had not only brought many geniuses, but there were also 3 geniuses from the top forces. Is this heavenly demon sparring session really just a sparring session? For a moment, many geniuses were shocked. Chapter 28. In the sky, the heavenly horse treasure sedan slowly descended and landed in front of the crowd. The faint heavenly music also slowly stopped at this moment, which disappointed many of the geniuses who were intoxicated by it. It's not too much to listen to such beautiful heavenly music for 800 years. That's right, If I can cultivate with this heavenly music, I will definitely be able to break through to the Earth Monarch stage soon. Many of the geniuses shook their heads and sighed. This music only existed in the heavens. How many people could listen to it in the human world? The heavenly horse treasure sedan landed steadily on the ground, and then a delicate fragrance wafted from the sedan. This is Jade Lake's Elysiong. It smells so good. The group of geniuses was intoxicated. This was the charm of Yaoqi Saintess. Her heavenly music could move people, and her delicate fragrance could intoxicate people. Then, a pair of slender hands reached out from the sedan and held the door. A woman in a white silk dress walked out. It was Yaoqi Saintess. When she walked out, everyone was stunned by her beauty. Yaoqi Saintess is still so beautiful. If only I had such a beautiful wife. You're despicable. You're just lusting after her body. However, Yaoqi Saintess did not say a word in the face of the surrounding geniuses' discussion. Her expression was indifferent, as if nothing could move her. She waved at the Heavenly Horse Treasure Sedan, and the Heavenly Horse Treasure Sedan turned into a golden light and landed on her hand. The Heavenly Horse Treasure Sedan was a spiritual weapon. Then, after doing all this, Yaoqi Saintess walked slowly and walked to Li Chongqing's side under the admiring gazes of the crowd. Senior brother, Yaoqi Saintess is here to discuss the Tao in the Tian cult. Yaoqi Saintess nodded slightly and said slowly to Li Chongqing. Li Chongqing was stunned for a moment and then hurriedly returned a bow. Welcome, Yaoqi Saintess, to the Tianma cult. Tao debate. The Jade Lake Saintess was the last one to arrive, but she was the first one to greet him. This quality caused many sky prides to nod their heads inwardly as they stepped forward one by one. The Thousandfold sect has come to the Tianma cult to discuss the Tao. The Pashan sect has come to the Tianma cult to discuss Tao. The Lingshu sect has come to the Tianma cult for a discussion. The Shadow Demon sect has come to the Tianma cult to discuss the Tao. Outside the gates of the Tianma cult, many prodigies announced their names. Basically, more than half of the forces in the heavenly spirit realm had sent their prodigy disciples to spar. After the noise subsided, Li Chongqing stood in front of the mountain gate and looked at the group of prodigies. He said slowly, "Welcome everyone to the Tianma cult to discuss the Tao." Without further ado, I will bring everyone to the Tao discussion platform. With that, he turned around and led the group of prodigies into the Tianma cult. They entered the Tianma cult. The group of prodigies held their heads high and puffed out their chests. As prodigies, they thought that even in the Tianma cult, there should be disciples looking at them in awe, right? However, unfortunately, some of the Tianma cult disciples who passed by them instantly lost interest after just a glance. This made the group of prodigies completely dumbfounded. As prodigies, when did they become so unpopular? Beside them, the Tianma cult disciples were also discussing. Today seems to be the day when many prodigies come to the Tianma cult to discuss the Tao. I don't care. What's so interesting about a prodigy discussion? You're right. Let's go find the patriarch now. I still want to cultivate with the patriarch. The patriarch is a god. Let's go quickly. Otherwise, there won't be a place for us under the moonlight cliff. With that, the group of Tianma cult disciples left excitedly. They didn't even look at the group of prodigies. That, senior brotherly, one of the prodigies couldn't suppress the doubts and unwillingness in his heart. He looked at Li Chongqing and asked, "What are these disciples going to do?" Li Chongqing said with a smile, "They're going to the Moonlight Cliff to cultivate with the patriarch of the Tianma cult." The disciples of the Tianma cult have such high awareness? Hearing this, many of the prodigies were stunned and felt ashamed of their inferiority. Could this be the reason why the Tianma cult was so powerful? There were even patriarchs who led their disciples to cultivate together. Ling Ao and In Shi-san were silent. Yaoqi Saintess's beautiful eyes flashed. No one knew what she was thinking. Li Chongqing looked at these amazed prodigies and couldn't help but feel a little bitter. How could that group of brats have such a high level of awareness? He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The patriarch was really a god. He could directly lead the cultivation of the entire Tianma cult disciples. Everyone, continue to follow me. Li Changsheng continued to lead the group of prodigies. Along the way, these prodigies also heard a lot about the Tianma cult disciples talking about the patriarch. These prodigies had more or less heard about the patriarch's deeds. He was simply a legendary patriarch. Even the three prodigies, Ling Ao, In San, and Yao Qi Saintis, were a little curious about the patriarch. Why had they never heard of such a legendary patriarch in the Tianma cult? Suddenly, a group of prodigies passed by the Moonlight Cliff. They saw a large group of disciples cultivating there. On the Moonlight Cliff, there was a handsome young man with a delicate face sitting cross-legged. The sun shone on him, making the prodigies feel inexplicably sacred. Who is he? Could he be a genius disciple of the Tianma cult? The prodigies of the major forces of the Tianling domain couldn't help but feel a little surprised. No, Li Changsheng, who was leading the group, shook his head. He looked at the young man on the Moonlight Cliff in awe and said with a smile, "He is the patriarch of the Tianma cult." What? He's the legendary patriarch? Hearing Li Changsheng's words, the prodigies' expressions changed, and they all widened their eyes. At this moment, the prodigies couldn't help but feel incredulous. This young man was the patriarch of the Tianma cult. This strength. I'm afraid he's only in the spirit detecting state. How can he be the patriarch? Is this Tianma cult's legendary patriarch really not here to be a joke? How can a mere spirit detecting state be the Tianma cult's patriarch? The prodigies discussed animatedly, and they couldn't help but feel that it was a little funny. Everyone, please don't be so rude. At this moment, Li Changsheng stopped smiling when he heard the prodigies' discussion. His tone was very serious, and he looked very displeased as he said lightly, "Not only is he the patriarch of the Tianma cult, but he's also the empress' husband. His status is not something you can compare to." What? So, he's the one who married the empress. At this moment, many prodigies sucked in a breath of cold air, and they didn't dare to say some of the words in their mouths. The legendary patriarch of the Tianma cult was far superior to them in terms of status and status. No matter how disdainful they were, they still had to respect the empress. Chapter 29. Humph. Just as everyone shut up, Ling Ao snorted coldly. A mere spirit-detecting disciple can lead the cultivation progress of a group of disciples? He can't even take care of himself. How can he take care of others? Ridiculous. Ling Ao had the Lingshu sect behind him, and his father was also a great emperor, a goddarch. When he spoke, he naturally didn't have to worry too much, nor did he have to be afraid like those prodigies. Although the other prodigies didn't dare to speak, they also agreed with Ling Ao's words. A mere spirit-detecting disciple. He could lead the other disciples to cultivate? It would be difficult for him to cultivate by himself, right? Everyone sneered in their hearts. Hee. Li Changsheng smiled, looked at Ling Ao, and shook his head. Junior brother Ling Ao's words are wrong. After cultivating with the ancestral master, many disciples clearly felt their strength increase. However, facing Li Changsheng's words, Ling Ao only sneered. Obviously, he didn't believe it. The group of prodigies didn't believe it either. How could following a spirit-detecting disciple make their perception stronger? Li Changsheng smiled. They didn't want to believe it, and he couldn't be bothered to argue. He was about to lead the group of prodigies away from the Moonlight Cliff and onto the Tao discussion platform. But at this moment, a surprised voice came from below the Moonlight Cliff. Ha ha ha, I broke through. Oh my God. The realm that trapped me for more than half a month. I directly broke through after cultivating with the ancestral master for half a day. It's amazing. Me too. I broke through too. Ha 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 ha. All of this is because of the ancestral master. A group of disciples who were cultivating suddenly sensed a breakthrough in their spiritual energy and immediately broke through. Then, one after another. Seeing this scene, the group of prodigies was stunned, and a look of astonishment flashed across their eyes. Was it really so magical? Even the breakthrough was made at the same time? Could it really be because of that young man on the cliff? Hiss! Ling Ao's expression was ugly, and he felt like he had been slapped in the face. Humph! He waved his Taoist robe, and walked forward angrily. The corner of Li Changxing's lips curled into a satisfied smile. He then said to the group of heaven's favorites, "Everyone, follow me. It's about time for the sparring session." "Yes, we understand." The group of heaven's favorites nodded, but the shock in their hearts did not disappear. The legendary patriarch of the Tianma cult was a bit godly. Yaoqi Saintess glanced at Ning Tian on the moonlight cliff with her beautiful eyes. A stunning smile appeared on her face as she softly muttered, "This ancestral master seems a little interesting." After the group of geniuses left, Ning Tian stretched his body. The accumulated spiritual energy in his body was enough for him to slowly absorb. "If this goes on, I might really have a chance to break through to the Earth King stage within 2 months, he muttered and slowly got up. At this moment, the system's beautiful electronic voice sounded. "You have shocked a group of prodigies. Rewarded with the sword intent martial art, sword. Currently, comprehending the sword intent martial art, sword. At 10 times the speed of comprehension. The sword intent martial art has been comprehended to the point of perfection." As the system's voice fell, many methods of using sword intent appeared in Ning Tian's mind. But when did I shock a group of heaven's favorites? Ning Tian scratched his head and could not help but feel strange. System. Host, that group of heaven's favorites just left? Oh. Ning Tian also remembered that today was the sparring session. If he wanted to go to the sparring stage, he would have to pass by the moonlight cliff. But he was just casually cultivating. Was there a need for these heaven's favorites to be so shocked? But the sparring session is quite interesting. I can go take a look. Ning Tian muttered, then looked at the group of disciples below. After telling them that he was leaving, the group of disciples was somewhat disappointed. Once the ancestral master left, their cultivation speed would slow down. After Ning Tian left the moonlight cliff, he turned off faith cultivation and rushed directly to the sparring stage. Tianma cult, sparring stage. A huge stone platform sat at the top of the mountains. On the stone platform, there were many seats. Some Tianma cult disciples had already rushed over. On the sparring stage, there was another high platform. Luo Wuqing, the Supreme Elder, and the Grand Elder were sitting on it. Luo Wuqing glanced at the Grand Elder indifferently and asked, "How are the heavens' favorites of the major forces?" The Grand Elder was silent for a moment, then replied, "Empress, according to the news from Changsheng, there are about 200 heavens' favorites." "More than 200? There are actually so many heavens' favorites?" Some of the surrounding elders could not help but be secretly shocked, but also excited. The large number of heavens' favorites showed that behind these forces, they all wanted to be on good terms with the Tianma cult. It also showed that the Tianma cult was getting stronger and stronger. But what the elders did not know was that these forces had seen the thunder tribulation of the Tianma cult that day and thought that the Empress had broken through again, so they wanted to curry favor with her. But they did not know that it was not the Empress who caused the thunder tribulation. It was Ning Tian. "Yes, there are indeed more than 200 people." The Grand Elder nodded with a solemn expression. "Among them, 3 are the most noteworthy. The first is Ling Ao of the Lingshu sect." "Ling Ao of the Lingshu sect? I didn't expect him to come." "This boy is known as the future star of the Lingshu sect. Even the position of young master is about to be passed on to him." The group of elders was a little surprised. The second is San of the Shadow Demon sect. At this point, the Grand Elder frowned slightly. The Shadow Demon sect? They will also come to the sparring stage? The elders felt strange. The Heavenly Devil sect and the Shadow Demon sect had a subtle relationship and had always been on bad terms. Why did San's sparring stage feel like a weasel paying a visit to a chicken? Was he up to no good? The elders glanced at Luo Wuqing and found that the Empress was indifferent and had no reaction at all. Then, First Elder, who was the last one? The group of elders could only look at the First Elder and ask. The Grand Elder smiled and said, "The last one is Yaoqi Saintess." "Yaoqi Saintess? Even the Jade Lake Sacred Ground is here?" Hearing this, the elders were shocked. Even Luo Wuqing narrowed his eyes slightly. The Jade Lake Sacred Ground was one of the most mysterious forces in the Tianling domain. No one knew their specific strength. and the Jade Lake's sacred ground had never interfered in any sect's affairs. Most of the time, they were neutral. Even at the Empress's wedding ceremony, they did not come to the Jade Lake's sacred ground. Who would have thought that the Jade Lake Saintess would be sent here today? The group of elders couldn't help but feel puzzled and discuss spiritedly. Why are you so panicked? Luo Wuqing glanced at the group of elders and said indifferently, it's just the Jade Lake's sacred ground. Elders, don't think too much. The Empress is right. Yes, we understand. Hearing this, the group of elders stopped talking. Anyway, the Empress was here, so they didn't have to worry too much. Chapter 30. It was noon. The sparring session had begun. Many sky prides sat on one side, and on the other side were some disciples of the Tianma cult. On the high platform were Luo Wuqing and a group of elders. Everyone! A voice rang out. The Grand Elder descended from the high platform and stepped across the void, looking at the sky prides of the various forces of the Tianling region. A Saint Emperor powerhouse. What a powerful aura! The sky prides of the Tianling region all looked at the Grand Elder in awe. A Saint Emperor powerhouse was already the strongest existence in their sect. The Grand Elder did not waste any time. He looked at the sky prides and said, everyone, the heavenly demon sparring session has officially begun. As his voice fell, the sky prides were extremely excited. A burly man immediately jumped out. I'm Li Patian from the Thousand Mountains sect. Please enlighten me, senior brother of the Tianma cult. Soon, a disciple from the Tianma cult walked out. Senior brother, I'm Su Qingfeng from the Mountain Palace of the Tianma cult. It's senior brother Su Qingfeng, the champion of the Mountain Palace. Senior brother Su Qingfeng, you can do it. Seeing the disciple who walked out, the group of Tianma cult disciples was extremely excited. The Tianma cult had 108 palaces, and the Mountain Palace was ranked 15th among the 108 palaces. As the champion of the Mountain Palace, Su Qingfeng's strength was naturally not weak. Senior brother, what do you want to spar with? Su Qingfeng looked at Li Patian with a smile and asked slowly. Haha. Li Patian laughed, raised his huge arm, and said confidently, of course, it's strength. Strength? Su Qingfeng was stunned, then nodded. All right. Strength it is. Soon, according to the rules of the contest of strength, the Sky Demon cult elder found 2 boulders, and the one who could destroy the boulder more would be the one who had the greater strength and would win. Both of you, this is a black boulder. It's extremely hard. Do what you can and don't hurt yourself. The referee elder reminded them. Thank you for the reminder, elder. Su Qingfeng and Li Patian cupped their fists and bowed. Senior brother, do you want to go first, or should I? Su Qingfeng had always maintained his composure. Let me. Li Patian laughed and walked in front of the boulder. Under the gazes of tens of thousands of people, Li Potion's spiritual energy revolved, and then he blasted out a fist. Bang! In an instant, a huge hole was blasted out of the boulder. What a powerful punch! As expected of a genius who focuses on cultivating strength. His strength is very strong. Seeing this scene, the group of sky prides and Tianma cult disciples were somewhat surprised. Hee. Li Patian was extremely satisfied with his punch. He looked at Su Qingfeng. Senior brother, it's your turn. Su Qingfeng slowly stepped forward, looked at the black stone, and took a deep breath. Then, he threw out an ordinary punch. Boom! In an instant, stone fragments flew everywhere. That black stone was directly blasted into pieces. One blasted a large hole, while the other directly shattered. Clearly, the outcome of the battle had been decided. So powerful. Seeing this scene, Li Patian opened his mouth wide in shock. The outcome has been decided. Strength path, Tianma cult, Su Qingfeng wins. Following the referee elder's announcement, the surrounding sky prides and disciples exclaimed. And as more and more sky prides stepped forward, the discussion began. Martial path, zither path, literature path, entertainment path, and so on. The 3,000 great paths were all the topics of their discussion. Earth Spirit Sect, Li Run. I'm here to discuss Saber Path, Empyrean Terminus Sect, Wang Shui. I'm here to discuss Entertainment Path, Earth Mystic Sacred Ground. The discussion continued. On the discussion platform, on the high platform, a group of elders looked at the discussion below with satisfaction, and a smile appeared on their faces. Most of the sparring sessions were won by the heavenly demon cult disciples. Of course, these disciples were not ordinary disciples, but the most outstanding genius disciples in the 108 palaces of the Tianma cult. Hearing their words, Luo Wuqing did not say a word, as if everything was within his expectations. Don't be happy too early, the first elder said faintly. The great elder said indifferently, the three most troublesome ones are still on the stage. Hearing this, the group of elders was stunned. Below the platform, Ling Ao, In 30, and Yao Qi Saintis did not show any signs of moving. These three are not easy to deal with. The group of elders frowned. At this moment, a voice came from behind, and the group of elders on the high platform subconsciously turned around. They saw Ning Tian slowly climbing up the ladder of the high platform with an apple in his mouth. Ancestral Master? Seeing Ning Tian, the group of elders was stunned. Hey! Ning Tian climbed down the ladder and removed the apple from her mouth. When she saw the group of elders on the high platform, she couldn't help but smile. Elders, you're all here? Do you want an apple? Ning Tian waved the apple that he had just taken from his mouth. Ahem. No need. Thank you, Ancestral Master, but we appreciate your kindness. The group of elders looked at the apple with Ning Tian's bite mark. The corners of their mouths twitched, and they quickly refused. What a good apple. It's a pity not to eat it. While speaking, Ning Tian took a bite of the apple in his hand, then walked to Luo Wuqing's side and sat down next to her unceremoniously. Suddenly, a fragrant wind blew over. Seeing this scene, the group of elders was impressed. The only person in the entire Tianma cult who could sit next to the Empress was the Ancestral Master. Facing Ning Tian, who sat next to her, Luo Wuqing just frowned and did not say anything. Wife, do you want an apple? Ning Tian looked at Luo Wuqing with a smile. No. Luo Wuqing frowned. Wife, do you want a banana? No. Wife, do you need me to give you a massage? No need. A few black lines appeared on Luo Wuqing's forehead. Old. Shut up. When Ning Tian wanted to say something, Luo Wuqing finally couldn't take it anymore and scolded him. Hee. Ning Tian could only smile embarrassedly and obediently shut his mouth. Then, he took a bite of the apple, crossed his legs, and watched the Dao discussion below with great interest. Looking at Ning Tian's carefree appearance, the group of elders couldn't help but give him a thumbs up. The Ancestral Master was awesome to be able to be mischievous in front of the Empress without saying anything. Boom. Below, on the Dao discussion stage, another round of Dao discussion began. At this time, a figure stepped forward and instantly attracted the attention of the group of people. It's Yin San from the Shadow Demon Sect. He's going to make a move too. I wonder what Dao he's going to discuss. Seeing Yin San, the group of Sky Prides began to discuss. On the high platform, the group of elders began to feel nervous. Just when everyone's eyes were on Yin San, looking forward to what Dao he was going to discuss, a voice suddenly came from the high platform. Wife, look, that man looks like a woman. He can't be a sissy, right? In an instant, everyone looked at the high platform in unison. They all saw Ning Tian sitting beside Luo Wuqing with his legs crossed and an apple in his mouth. F***CK. Isn't that the legendary Ancestral Master of the Tianma cult? Why is he here? Seeing Ning Tian, the group of Sky Prides was shocked. Sissy? At this moment, Yin San's face instantly darkened. Chapter 31. What Yin San hated the most was being called a sissy. Yin San clenched his teeth and looked coldly at Ning Tian, who was chewing on an apple on the high platform. After a long while, forget it. I won't argue with you. Thinking that his opponent was a legendary patriarch and the husband of the Empress, Yin San could only swallow his anger. Soon, The anger on his face was hidden in the blink of an eye, and a cold smile appeared on his face. Everyone, I don't care about any of the 3,000 great paths. Know of the 3,000 great paths? Then what is he talking about? That's strange. Hearing Insan's words, the group of prodigies and Tianma cult disciples discussed and were curious about Insan's behavior. If he didn't talk about Tao, then what was he talking about? Amidst the discussion, the corners of Insan's mouth lifted slightly. He looked at the crowd and said lightly, I'm talking about Tao. What is Tao? Insan's words were like a heavy blow to everyone's heart. What was Tao? Some of them practiced the knife Tao, some practiced the sword Tao, and some practiced the entertainment Tao. But what was Tao? They didn't have an answer in their hearts. There was only confusion in their minds. What was Tao? Even some of the Tianma cult elders were sweating, and their eyes were full of panic. This question, it was too tricky. This question, I don't think anyone can answer it. Insan's question is simply, tricky, there's no solution. Sigh. The group of prodigies sighed. As expected of a genius disciple of the Shadow Demon sect, he gave everyone a headache. Hearing this question, Ling Ao and Yaoqi Saintis couldn't help but frown. Seeing everyone's reaction, Insan's mouth lifted slightly. This question was unsolvable. Some people had discussed it for thousands of years, but they couldn't come up with an answer. How could a Tianma cult disciple solve it? Insan's mouth lifted, revealing a confident smile. What? Is there no one from the Tianma cult who can answer my question? With a smile on his face, Insan looked modestly at the disciples of the 108 palaces of Tianma cult in front of him. What is? Tao. The genius disciples of the 108 halls of the Tianma cult all had ugly expressions on their faces. Their faces were flushed red, but they couldn't say anything. What is it? A smile appeared at the corner of Insansi's mouth as he said in a mocking tone, could it be that none of the tens of thousands of disciples of the Tianma cult can answer this simple question of mine? He had come today to give the Tianma cult a show of strength before forcing them to abdicate. Naturally, he would seize the opportunity to embarrass the Tianma cult. A small problem? Upon hearing this, not to mention the Tianma cult disciples, even the Sky Prides twitched their mouths. What was Tao? This question had troubled who knew how many powerhouses. It could be said that this was the first time in history. On the high platform, the group of elders gritted their teeth. This Insansi must be here to cause trouble. How dare he ask such a question? If he's not here to cause trouble, then what is he? The elders gritted their teeth, their faces full of anger. But we can't drive him out now even though we know he's here to cause trouble. The Grand Elder shook his head and sighed. If we drive out the person who's here to discuss Tao, I'm afraid our Tianma cult will become a laughingstock. Sigh. The group of elders sighed heavily. At this moment, the elders heard a murmur. What is Tao? It's such a simple question. I don't know what's so strange about it. The elders were stunned and looked at Ning Tian, who was biting an apple. The elders' expressions changed, and a glint flashed in their eyes. Could it be that the patriarch knew? That patriarch, just as the Grand Elder was about to ask Ning Tian to make a move, he saw a jade-like foot reach out and kick Ning Tian's butt. Following that, Ning Tian flew out of the stage in a strange posture, then suddenly fell to the ground. F***CK. Luo Wuqing, are you trying to kill your husband? Following a cry of surprise, there was a loud boom. Boom. Dust flew up from the discussion platform, and a figure fell heavily on the ground. Luo Wuqing, you woman, are you trying to kill your husband? Just you wait. Ning Tian touched his butt and glared at Luo Wuqing on the high platform. This woman had kicked him, but fortunately, his apple didn't fall to the ground, so he could still eat it. The group of geniuses looked at Ning Tian's entrance and couldn't help but twitch their mouths. Even the legendary patriarch of the Tianma cult had a unique entrance. It's the patriarch. The patriarch is here. Ha ha ha. That Insantian is finished. The patriarch will definitely solve his problem. Seeing Ning Tian's entrance, although the way he appeared was a bit special, the group of Tianma cult disciples felt relieved. They were looking forward to seeing if this patriarch, who always shocked them, could shock them again this time? Oh? Yin Santian looked at Ning Tian and narrowed his eyes. Patriarch of the Tianma cult, are you going to answer my question? Of course. Ning Tian nodded slightly. He naturally understood that Luo Wuqing threw him down to ask him to send Yin Santian away. Then let me ask you, what is Tao? Yin Santian asked slowly. After asking this question, the corners of Yin Santian's mouth rose slightly, and his eyes were filled with a sneer. He believed that the legendary patriarch of the Tianma cult in front of him wouldn't be able to answer it either. Hundreds of sky prides, countless Tianma cult disciples, as well as Luo Wuqing and the elders of Gaotai Mountain, all looked at Ning Tian. Could the legendary patriarch of the Tianma cult answer it? It's so simple. I really don't know how I trapped you. Ning Tian shook his head, took a bite of the apple and muttered, "What?" The sky prides, disciples, and elders were all shocked. What did the patriarch just say? What did he mean? Could it be that he really knew? Humph, you're just a quick talker. Ling Ao sneered. Looking at Ning Tian's sloppy appearance, he felt very disdainful. Yaoqi Saintess narrowed her beautiful eyes and looked at Ning Tian. I have to say, this legendary patriarch is really interesting. Ha! Yin Santian sneered. According to patriarch's age, do you really understand? Then please tell me, patriarch, what is Tao? Sometimes, some things can't be determined by age. Ning Tian smiled indifferently and said slowly, what is Tao? Today, I'll tell you what Tao is. Ning Tian's eyes flashed with a trace of shrewdness. Tao is invisible, soundless, and odorless. It's big and has no outside, and small and has no inside. However, it's the total energy that produces and dominates all things in the world. Chapter 32. Upon hearing Ning Tian's words, the sparring platform fell silent. Everyone looked at Ning Tian, dumbfounded. Their eyes were filled with doubt. They had to admit that the patriarch's words were very pretentious. It was so pretentious that they couldn't understand what he was saying. What? What is he saying? I don't know. This is completely beyond the scope of my knowledge. The group of sky prides looked at each other, scratching their heads in bewilderment. What was the legendary patriarch of the Tianma cult talking about? Ling Ao snorted. Humph. Crazy words. I don't know what he's talking about. Formless, soundless, smellless, big, small, small. Yaoqi Saintess murmured. Her eyes flashed, and she smiled, stunning many of the prodigies around her. Interesting. It's really interesting. Yaoqi Saintess looked at Ning Tian. She felt that he had infinite secrets that she wanted to explore. What are you talking about? Yin San frowned slightly, looking at Ning Tian with a puzzled expression. Sigh. You can only blame yourselves for being uncultured. Ning Tian shook his head and sighed. Read more books. Studying is really important. This guy must be posturing. I'm so angry. But I really don't understand. Seeing Ning Tian's helpless look, the group of prodigies gritted their teeth. They knew that he was posturing, but they couldn't do anything about it. Of course, they didn't know what Ning Tian was talking about, because those words were what Ning Tian had seen on Baidu. They didn't belong to the same world, so they naturally didn't understand what he was talking about. If we don't understand what you're saying, isn't it the same as not saying anything? You still haven't explained what Tao is. Yin Sansi looked at Ning Tian and said lightly, Then, listen carefully. Ning Tian's expression gradually became serious, and he put away the apple in his hand. Next, I will tell you what the real Tao is. Hearing Ning Tian's words, the crowd instantly became excited. On the Tao discussion stage, everyone's eyes were on him. Are you finally going to answer me directly? Yin San 30 was stunned for a moment, then a sneer appeared on the corners of his mouth. Oh, I'm all ears. There are 3,000 great Taos, and each Tao has its own understanding. Among the 3,000 great Taos, I'll take the sword Tao as an example. What was the Tao of sword Tao? It was sword intent, a swordsman's understanding of the sword. If a person who cultivates the sword Tao comprehends the sword intent, then he comprehends the sword Tao. So on and so forth. What is Tao? I don't need to explain it one by one, do I? The corners of Ning Tian's mouth curled up into a smile as he said indifferently. These people's questions were really strange. The Tao was the path chosen by the cultivator. There were 3,000 great Taos, so there were 3,000 different Taos. Sword and tint. Hearing Ning Tian's words, everyone present fell silent. At this moment, Ning Tian spoke again. When you successfully cultivate the Tao of the 3,000 great Taos, you have already understood what the Tao is. Otherwise, how could you succeed in cultivating it? What? One by one, they repeated Ning Mo's words with their eyes wide open. That's right. When they succeeded in cultivating the Tao of their choice, they had already understood what the Tao was. Otherwise, how could they have succeeded in cultivating it? Hiss. In an instant, Ning Mo's words directly awakened hundreds of geniuses. As if they had just woken up from a dream, the confusion in their eyes instantly disappeared and was replaced by a touch of brightness. At this moment, they understood. Some kind of Tao tint in their bodies also rose by a large margin at this moment. Ha ha ha. My cultivation of the sword Tao has reached the level of initial success. I've also broken through. This answer solves all of my doubts. When the confusion in their eyes dissipated, their doubts were solved, and the Tao in their bodies instantly broke through. Many of the Sky Prides were shocked after hearing this. The legendary patriarch of the Tianma cult was too godly. What? This is impossible. This is absolutely impossible. After hearing this sentence, In Santian was instantly shocked. His eyes widened as he muttered that it was impossible. If I can understand the Tao when I cultivate the Tao, then wouldn't I? Before he could finish his sentence, a voice rang out. In an instant, the shackles of the Tao that had troubled his body for many years were broken, and he directly broke through. What? At this moment, In Santian was not happy at all because he had just said that it was impossible, and in the next second, his body had broken through. Without a doubt, this was a slap to his face. Even Ling Ao, who had always been full of disdain for Ning Tian, changed his expression greatly. On the high platform, all the elders were shocked as they looked at Ning Tian in astonishment. The patriarch is godly. The grand elder could not help but sigh. Previously, the patriarch's words broke the Tao hearts of many saints and deities. Now, he can solve all of their doubts with one sentence. That's right. Our Tianma cult is blessed to have such a patriarch. The group of elders nodded secretly, and their hearts were filled with deep respect for Ning Tian. Even if Ning Tian's strength was far inferior to theirs, this did not stop them from respecting Ning Tian. Luo Wuqing was silent, but her mouth was slightly open and her beautiful eyes were fixed on Ning Tian. This was enough to show the surprise in her heart. Every time, Ning Tian would bring her a different kind of surprise. It seems that I guessed it right. Seeing the shocked faces of the group of people, Ning Tian breathed a sigh of relief, and the seriousness on his face completely disappeared. How would he know what the Tao was? Undoubtedly, he was just cramming at the last minute and casually saying it. However, he didn't expect that his casual remark would actually hit the mark. If this was known by these elites, the expressions on their faces would be very interesting. Ding! The system's beautiful electronic voice sounded in his mind. You have shocked everyone on the Tao discussion stage. Rewarded skill card. Great Emperor's Strike. Great Emperor's Strike. Able to launch an attack of a powerhouse at the peak of the Divine Emperor realm. Once activated, the skill card will be invalid. Skill card? Great Emperor's Strike? Hearing the system's words, Ning Tian's eyes flashed. This thing was not bad. An attack of a powerhouse at the peak of the Divine Emperor realm. This was definitely an invincible skill. Ning Tian's face was full of smiles, and he happily put away the skill card. Just as he was about to turn around, suddenly, several voices sounded behind him. Patriarch, I would like to invite you to a discussion of the Tao, a discussion of the Tao of entertainment. Patriarch, and me, Patriarch I. When they saw that the legendary patriarch of the Tianma cult was indeed so magical, the eyes of these elites lit up, and they were not willing to miss this opportunity. Seeing this, Ning Tian sighed. Patriarch, I'm also very busy. Sighing was one thing, but he had no choice but to go on stage. Chapter 33. Watching Ning Tian confidently face off against several geniuses on the Tao discussion stage, San 30 could not help but grit his teeth and snort coldly. Then he turned around to leave. Junior brother 30. Where are you going? 30 had just turned around when Li Chongqing's voice came from the side. Going to the toilet. Why? Senior brother Li, are you interested in men going to the toilet? 30 glanced at Li Chongqing indifferently. That's not it. Li Chongqing smiled. It's just that the Tianma cult is a big place, and I'm afraid you'll get lost, so I want to send you off. No need. 30 waved his hand. I have a habit. If someone follows me, I can't pee. Then he turned around and left the platform. Looking at 30's back, Li Chongqing's eyes flashed. He immediately signaled his disciple to pass the news to the Grand Elder. He still needed to pay more attention to the people from the Shadow Demon sect. After 30 left the platform, he walked to a hidden corner. After making sure there was no one around, he opened the psychic jade. The voice of the hook-nosed old man came out. 30, how was it? Did you slap the Tianma cult in the face? The hook-nosed old man's voice was mixed with a bit of confidence. Obviously, he was very confident in his disciple. No. 30's face was gloomy as he gritted his teeth. Sect Master, it was destroyed by the legendary patriarch of the Tianma cult. You'd better come over soon. Oh, even you failed? Hearing this, the hook-nosed old man couldn't help but be surprised. A cold light flashed in his eyes. In that case, wait for us. Then the image on the psychic jade disappeared, and the connection was cut. So what if you can say it? If we force you to abdicate, the Tianma cult will still lose face. 30 snorted coldly. Then he turned around and walked toward the platform. On the platform, a group of geniuses broke out in cold sweat as they looked at the smiling young man in front of them in shock. The legendary patriarch of the Tianma cult was too terrifying. In the face of a Tao discussion with dozens of them at once, he actually felt no pressure at all. They couldn't do anything about it. The disciples of the Tianma cult, on the other hand, worshipped Ning Tian more and more. Such an ancestral master was simply a god. So powerful. Is this patriarch an all-rounder? The group of geniuses smiled bitterly. No matter what kind of Tao they were discussing, Ning Tian could handle it. Let me. At this moment, a voice rang out. Ling Ao, who had not made a move until now, could no longer sit still. After shouting loudly, he jumped down and landed in front of Ning Tian. He's finally made his move. This is going to be a good show. Upon seeing Ling Ao make his move, the eyes of the group of Sky Prides and Tianma cult disciples lit up. One of the most powerful geniuses was finally going to make a move. Would Patriarch be able to withstand it? Ling Ao bowed to Ning Tian and said slowly, I'm Ling Ao from the Lingshu sect. Please enlighten me, Patriarch. Ning Tian looked at him and asked, What do you want to discuss? Sword. I want to discuss sword Tao. Ling Ao's eyes flashed as he patted the sword at his waist. Sword Tao? Ning Tian was stunned for a moment. Then, his eyes lit up and he nodded. After such a long time, someone finally wanted to discuss sword Tao with him. He hadn't had a chance to use the sword Tao that the system had given him since he had successfully comprehended it. Now was a good time to test the power of this sword Tao martial art. It's sword Tao. Ling Ao is best at sword Tao. I wonder if Patriarch can withstand it. Upon hearing Ling Ao's request to discuss sword Tao, the group of Sky Prides understood that he was serious. What Ling Ao was best at was the way of the sword. Come on. Ling Ao raised the corner of his mouth and revealed a confident smile. Then, he slowly pulled out the sword at his waist. This phantom sword is a bejeweled weapon. Ling Ao raised the phantom sword in his hand. The body of the sword was white and the hilt was black. It shone faintly, revealing its extraordinariness. A bejeweled weapon. Upon hearing Ling Ao's words, many people gasped as envy flashed in their eyes. Weapons were also divided into grades: magic weapon, spiritual weapon, bejeweled weapon, immortal weapon, and divine weapon. There were also grades above divine weapon, but that was beyond everyone's knowledge. In the entire celestial spirit region, not to mention divine weapons, even immortal weapons were hard to find. Therefore, bejeweled weapons were naturally extremely precious. They didn't expect Ling Ao to have a bejeweled weapon in his hand. It seemed that the Lingshu sect had taken a liking to him. A bejeweled weapon? Ning Tian murmured. However, he wasn't too worried. Weapons were more of an auxiliary role. The key was still the user. Ancestral Master, why don't you take a sword? Ling Ao held the sword and asked Ning Tian. I don't have a sword. Ning Tian shook his head. Ling Ao frowned. How can we talk about swordsmanship without a sword? Ancestral Master, I have a good sword. I have one too. Ancestral Master, please use mine. Me. I have one too. My sword is good. It's a spiritual weapon. Ancestral Master, please use mine and give me an autograph. When the group of people heard that Ning Tian didn't have a sword, their eyes lit up. They excitedly pulled out their own swords and shouted at Ning Tian. No need. Ning Tian smiled and rejected their good intentions. Although I don't have a physical sword, I have other swords. Other swords? Upon hearing Ning Tian's words, the surrounding group of people were stunned. Ning Tian slowly raised his hand. Spiritual energy emerged from his body as he activated his sword while martial arts. A sword formed from spiritual energy appeared in his hand. This is spiritual energy transformed into a sword? Seeing this scene, Ling Ao sucked in a breath of cold air. Your sword has reached the point of perfection? In an instant, Ling Ao's face turned extremely ugly. Spiritual energy transformed into a sword. The violent sword will was released inadvertently and turned into a giant dragon that blasted towards a cliff not far away. Boom! Suddenly, the sword will cut a huge hole in the cliff and it collapsed instantly. Swish, swish. At this moment, the group of people widened their eyes and looked at Ning Tian. Cough, cough. My hand slipped. My hand slipped. Ning Tian scratched his head. Although he had comprehended the sword will, he wasn't familiar with it. Therefore, it led to the previous scene. Seeing this scene, Ling Ao swallowed a mouthful of saliva with some difficulty inside. Ancestor, I admit defeat. In terms of the way of the sword, I have lost. Just the sword will transforming into a dragon was enough for him to know that he was bound to lose. The sword will that he and Ning Tian had comprehended was on a completely different level. Huh, you're not going to fight anymore? Hearing Ling Ao's words, Ning Tian frowned. He hadn't tested the power of his sword yet. I'm not going to fight anymore. Ling Ao shook his head. It was better to admit defeat than to humiliate himself. Yaoqi Saintis, do you want to fight? Ning Tian, who wanted to vent his sword will, could only look at Yaoqi Saintis. Among the elites present, she was the only one who hadn't made a move yet. Ancestral Master, I'm not here to spar. I'm mainly here to. Yaoqi Saintis didn't finish her sentence. Suddenly, in the Tianma cult, dark clouds covered the sky above the sparring stage. A powerful Emperor Realm aura instantly enveloped the entire Tianma cult. Chapter 34. Boom! A thunderous roar came from the sky. An emperor's aura abruptly engulfed the entire sky demon cult. Many disciples were instantly suppressed by this aura. Their spiritual energy froze, and they didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Emperor Realm aura. It's an Emperor Realm powerhouse. Many Sky Prides panicked when they sensed the Emperor Realm aura. They tried their best to resist it. However, in the face of an Emperor Realm powerhouse, they were no longer Sky Prides, but ants. Humph. At this moment, a cold snort came from the high platform of the sparring stage. In an instant, the Emperor Realm aura that enveloped the Tianma cult collapsed. Many disciples and elders heaved a sigh of relief when they sensed the Emperor Realm aura dissipating. Then, their gazes were filled with reverence as they looked at the beautiful woman wearing a blue and white dress and a phoenix crown on her head on the high platform. It was the Tiamat cult's empress, Luo Wuqing. The empress is as strong as ever. Is this the strength of the Tiamat cult's empress? It's terrifying. Hiss. The Sky Prides looked at Luo Wuqing in awe. Yaoqi Saintis and Ling Ao also looked serious. Even the leaders of their factions were at most as strong as the empress. There was no way they could surpass her. Shadow Demon Old Man, since you're here, why are you hiding like a rat? Luo Wuqing looked coldly at a spot in the void and said flatly, Shadow Demon Old Man? The leader of the Shadow Demon sect, the second most powerful demonic sect? So that Emperor Realm aura is his? A glint flashed across the eyes of the group of Sky Prides as they suddenly realized that something was amiss. The Shadow Demon sect had always been unhappy with the Tiamat cult. Why would they take the initiative to come here? There must be a conspiracy behind this. Some of the Sky Prides were already thinking of retreating. However, they didn't dare to move because of the Emperor Realm aura. Kikik. A strange laughter sounded in the sky. The voice was cold and gloomy, causing many disciples to tremble in fear. Luo Wuqing, I didn't come here alone today. The Shadow Demon Old Man appeared in the air. He was wearing a hemp garment and had a crooked posture. He held a walking stick in his hand, and a cold smile appeared on his face. Everyone, come out. As the Shadow Demon Old Man finished speaking, the void behind him rippled. Then, several powerful figures appeared. Of course, the pupils of many people constricted when they saw this scene. In the sky, other than the Shadow Devil Elder, there were also 3 men and a woman. The Valley Master of Viper Valley, Snake Venom Tai, Supreme Elder of the Evil Soul Sect, Elder Hunmia, the leader of the Yin Yang Sect, Wei Yin Yang, and the Poison Scorpion Sect's Lady Snake Scorpion, Hiss. The group of Sky Prides sucked in a breath of cold air when they saw the 3 men and 1 woman. The 4 of them, in addition to the Old Man Shadow Demon, were 5 Emperor Gods. Many people were shocked when they saw the leaders of the top forces of the demonic path. The demonic path was making a big move. 5 God Emperors? On the Dao discussion stage, Ning Tian looked at the 5 powerful figures in the sky and frowned slightly. His eyes were full of seriousness. 5 Emperor Gods. Could his wife be a match for them? At this moment, the system's beautiful voice sounded. The system said, Host, don't worry. You've underestimated the strength of your cheap wife. The system suggests that you just sit back and watch the show. Ning Tian. Although he heard the system's words, Ning Tian was still worried. He had never seen Luo Wuqing fight before, so he was still unclear about the strength of the Emperor Gods. At most, I'll have to use the Emperor's Strike skill card. Ning Tian gritted his teeth and prepared for the worst. On the high platform, the group of elders were sweating profusely as they looked at the 5 figures in the sky nervously. The Emperor Realm aura was constantly released, making them feel pressured. Even the Saint Emperor Realm elders had solemn looks in their eyes. The difference between the Holy Emperor Realm and the Emperor God Realm was like heaven and earth. Facing the 5 Emperor God Realm experts, Luo Wuqing was still calm, as if she was not worried at all. Seeing her like this, the Old Man Shadow Demon frowned slightly. This was not what he had expected. So, what are you guys trying to do? Luo Wuqing looked at the 5 of them calmly. Her calm look instantly attracted the attention of the group of Sky Prides. She's indeed the Empress. Facing 5 Emperor God Realm experts, she's not worried at all. Is this confidence in her strength, or is she pretending to be calm? The discussion of the group of Sky Prides made the Old Man Shadow Demon and the other 4 experts lose their faces. What a joke. This was simply looking down on them. The 5 of them looked at each other and nodded inwardly. Then, the Old Man Shadow Demon looked at Luo Wuqing. Luo Wuqing, our 5 sects are very dissatisfied with the Tiamat cult's position as the leader of the demonic sections. Therefore, we think that perhaps you should hand over the position of leader to us. What? Hand over the position of leader of the demonic sects? Hearing the Old Man Shadow Demon's words, the group of Sky Prides and the disciples and elders of the Tiamat cult were shocked. They suddenly realized what was going on. The Old Man Shadow Demon had led the other 4 sects to the Tiamat cult's position. Now was the day of the Tiamat cult's Tao debate. How many sky prides had gathered? If the old man shadow demon succeeded, the news would spread throughout the sky spirit realm. The Empress and the Tianma cult's reputation would be greatly tarnished. What a good move! What a good move! The Grand Elder was so angry that his beard was puffed up and his eyes were wide open. The group of elders around him was also furious. All of them looked anxiously at Luo Wuqing. However, at this moment, Luo Wuqing's expression remained unchanged. Abdicate? Luo Wuqing murmured. The corners of her mouth curled up into a beautiful smile, instantly stunning countless people. Even Yaoqi Saintess could only feel ashamed of her inferiority. Interesting. But Luo Wuqing raised her head slightly. Her beautiful eyes flashed with disdain as she looked at the old man shadow demon and the other four. Do you think you are worthy? What? 5 celestial thearchs were not worthy? The sky prides were shocked. According to the Empress's words, there would be a battle today. A battle between celestial thearchs. Their eyes shone brightly, and the blood in their bodies boiled. My wife is so domineering. Ning Tian secretly gave Luo Wuqing a thumbs up. What? We are not worthy? The old man shadow demon's expression was extremely ugly. He instantly felt that he had lost face. Luo Wuqing, you are looking down on us 5 celestial thearchs. Lady Snake Scorpion sneered. The poisonous scorpion in her hand crawled slowly, which made many people shudder. In that case, don't blame us for being impolite. Elder Soul Destroyer, use the Ghost Destruction painting. Chapter 35. Ghost Extermination Map? What? Elder Hunmia actually brought the Ghost Extermination Map. That's the Ghost Extermination Map, the treasure of the Evil Soul Cult, a low-grade immortal artifact. Seeing the black sheepskin scroll in Elder Hunmia's hand, everyone's face changed. Ghost Extermination Map. Rumor has it that it was refined from 9,999 living people, trapping their souls in it for others to use. It could be said to be extremely evil. Humph. Luo Wuqing, you forced us to do this. Elder Hunmia heavily snorted. Then, the Ghost Extermination Map in his hand suddenly opened. In an instant, wisps of black gas circulated, and the sound of ghosts wailing and wolves howling constantly came from it. Evil wind blew, and it was extremely gloomy. Although this old man can't fully activate the Ghost Extermination Map and can't summon 9,999 evil souls, a mere 3,000 is still possible. Elder Hunmia smiled confidently. Ghost Extermination Map. Open. Boom. A wisp of black gas erupted. Woo, woo, woo. The evil wind whistled, accompanied by the cries of the evil souls, and 3,000 black evil souls neatly appeared in the sky. In an instant, it was as if the air between heaven and earth had turned cold. 3,000 evil souls. These 3,000 evil souls are at least at the Earth King realm. Seeing the 3,000 evil souls in the sky, the group of Tianma cult elders were worried. These 3,000 evil souls were not easy to deal with. The group of Tianma cult disciples gritted their teeth and were already prepared for battle. Ning Tian looked at the Ghost Extermination Map in Elder Hunmia's hand and frowned slightly. Refined from 9,999 living people, this Ghost Extermination Map is really a bit evil. These 3,000 evil souls are not easy to deal with. The system's excited voice came at this moment. Host, these 3,000 evil souls are great supplements. Each soul can strengthen the power of your soul origin orb. Great supplements? Ning Tian was shocked. Although he was tempted, he still had some concerns. But these 3,000 evil souls are equivalent to 3,000 Earth King realm powerhouses. The system said, what's there to be afraid of? Have you forgotten the soul extinguishing technique I gave you? With the existence of the soul extinguishing technique and the lightning tribulation spiritual vein in your body, as long as it's a soul body, it's just a little brother in front of you. Soul extermination technique? Lightning calamity spirit vein? Reminded by the system, Ning Tian's eyes suddenly lit up. That's right. He still had the soul-extinguishing technique and the lightning calamity spirit vein. These two were the absolute nemesis of soul bodies. Don't forget how that God Emperor realm heavenly demon died. After he came to a sudden realization, the way Ning Tian looked at the group of evil souls was different. They were no longer terrifying beings that were extremely ferocious, but great nourishment. Humph. Luo Wuqing, our 5 sects have already surrounded your Tianma cult. If you insist on being stubborn, then don't blame us for annihilating your Tianma cult. If you agree, we can let you go on account of the fact that we are both members of the demon sect. The shadow demon old man raised the corner of his mouth slightly, and a cold smile flashed in his eyes. The other 4 also crossed their arms and looked at him coldly. The surrounding supreme talents, elders, and disciples of the Tianma cult all looked at Luo Wuqing. What choice would the Empress make? Just the few of you can be considered God Emperor realm experts? Luo Wuqing stood up indifferently. Her blue and white dress perfectly outlined her perfect figure. She looked indifferently at the shadow demon old man and the other 4. Are you all stupid? Or are you saying that the Emperor's dignity no longer exists? At this moment, Luo Wuqing changed the way she addressed herself. She changed it to Emperor. Her aura suddenly changed. Boom. In the sky, the sound of thunder was unceasing. A wisp of powerful aura faintly emitted from Luo Wuqing's body. Since when did a mere 7-star God Emperor realm and 4 3-star God Emperor realm trash emperors dare to challenge the Emperor's dignity? Trash emperors. In the Tianxian continent, there was a clear division of titles for God Emperor realm experts. 1 to 3-star were called Boundary Emperors. 4 to 6-star were called Mortal Emperors. 7 to 8-star were called God Emperors. 9-star, or even Peak experts were called Great Emperors. As for Trash Emperors, it was completely Luo Wuqing's disdainful way of addressing them. Domineering. The Empress is domineering. In an instant, everyone on the discussion stage was shocked. They looked at Luo Wuqing in awe. At this moment, somewhere on the discussion stage, a particularly attractive voice sounded. Ha ha ha, my wife is domineering. Kill them all. Beat these 5 old things to the ground. Everyone was stunned. When they realized it was their patriarch, they didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This kid, a mere spirit-detecting realm kid, dares to be so arrogant? The shadow demon old man and the other 4 had ugly expressions. Sect leader. He is the legendary patriarch of the Tianma cult and the husband of the Empress. In San said slowly. It's him? The shadow demon old man's eyes flashed. The husband of the Empress is just a spirit-detecting realm trash. Ha ha ha. Wei Yinyang laughed sarcastically. Luo Wuqing, if that's the case, don't blame us for being rude. The shadow demon old man looked at Luo Wuqing indifferently. So what if you are a peak divine god? We have immortal weapons in our hands. As soon as he finished speaking, the shadow demon old man, Wei Yinyang, Lady Snake Scorpion, and Snake Venom Tai all took out their weapons. All of them were immortal weapons. Oh my god. 5 divine gods and 5 immortal weapons. Seeing this scene, many people's eyes widened instantly. Immortal weapons. Those were immortal weapons. At this moment, the legendary patriarch's voice drifted over. So what if you have immortal weapons? Weapons only have a supporting role. The most important thing is still the person using them. Shut up, kid. When I take down the Tianma cult, the first person I kill will be you. Wei Yinyang stared at Ning Tian. If his opponent was not the Empress, he would have slapped this guy to death. When the 5 immortal weapons appeared, heaven and earth seemed to move. Elder Hunmia, use the 3,000 evil souls. The shadow demon old man shouted. Okay. Elder Hunmia nodded and made a hand seal. The evil souls technique flashed, and the surrounding aura exploded. A cold wind blew, and it suddenly attacked the Dao discussion platform. Luo Wuqing, it's our turn. After everything was done, the 5 of them looked at Luo Wuqing. The 5 emperors joined hands. Boom. The majesty of the divine gods and the aura of the immortal weapons swept toward Luo Wuqing. A powerful aura swept toward Luo Wuqing instantly. Boom. The aura was overwhelming. Luo Wuqing raised his hand and shook it. Instantly, the aura of the 5 emperors collapsed. What? The 5 of them were shocked. With the immortal weapons in their hands, they attacked again. You overestimate yourselves. Luo Wuqing shook his head slightly and won a fight. She did not even use her immortal weapons because these guys were not qualified. Chapter 36. In the sky, the aura of the Archrealm continued to surge. The dark clouds were dispersed, and even the air was vibrating. So strong. When they saw that Luo Wuqing was fighting against 5 emperor gods in the sky alone and was not at a disadvantage at all, the group of geniuses were shocked. Woo, woo, woo. At this time, the 3,000 evil souls began to attack the people on the stage. Elders of the Tianma cult, follow me. The Grand Elder roared, wanting to lead the group of elders to fight the 3,000 evil souls. 3,000 Earth Monarch Realm evil souls. If they were not dealt with properly, it would cause a large number of casualties. Yes, sir. Yes, Grand Elder. Hundreds of Tianma cult elders quickly gathered. At this moment, a hearty laugh sounded. Grand Elder, why don't you let me deal with these 3,000 evil souls? The Grand Elder and the other elders were stunned and looked at Ning Tian, who was walking over with a smile. Ancestral Master, stop joking at this time. These are 3,000 evil souls, 3,000 Earth Monarch Realm powerhouses. The Grand Elder frowned and looked at Ning Tian with a serious tone. Everyone thought that Ning Tian would retreat, but Ning Tian's lips curled up slightly. So what if there are 3,000 Earth Monarch Realm powerhouses? Ning Tian remembered the system's words. He, who had mastered the soul extinguishing technique, was a junior to any soul that met him. What? The Grand Elder was shocked, and the other elders were also shocked. The Ancestral Master was only in the spirit-detecting realm. How could he not care about 3,000 Earth Monarch Realm evil souls? You have shocked all the elders. Reward. Lightning Tribulation Array. Comprehending Lightning Tribulation Array at 10 times the speed. Comprehension successful. A voice sounded in Ning Tian's mind. Ancestral Master, stop joking. The Grand Elder shook his head. At this moment, Li Changsheng rushed over and said to the Grand Elder, Master, the disciples of the 5 sects outside have launched an attack. What? The Great Elder frowned. They're really rebellious. How dare a bunch of ants be so arrogant? Let's go. You and the other elders will lead the 108 inner sect disciples and exterminate them. Yes, Master. Li Changsheng cupped his fists and quickly left with the other elders. The Great Elder frowned. He suddenly realized that there seemed to be someone missing from his side. Where's the Ancestral Master? Ning Tian, who was beside him, had long since disappeared. Where is the Patriarch? The center of the Tao Exchange stage. An elder's eyes lit up, and he suddenly pointed at the center of the Tao discussion platform. Ning Tian slowly walked over as a group of evil spirits rushed towards him. F***CK. My little ancestor. Ancestral Master, please calm down. If something happens to you, how are we going to explain it to the Empress? The Great Elder exclaimed. He wanted to go over and bring Ning Tian back. Something's wrong. Great Elder, look at Patriarch's body. What is that? Huh. The Great Elder looked over and saw faint electric currents flickering on Ning Tian's body. That's lightning tribulation? No way. Another lightning tribulation? The group of elders gasped, and their eyes were filled with shock. Did this lightning tribulation belong to the Ancestral Master? How could he summon it just like that? At this moment, Ning Tian had already walked to the center of the Tao Exchange stage. The surrounding sky prides were avoiding the Earth Emperor's stage evil spirits when they suddenly saw his figure. That's the legendary Ancestral Master of the Tianma cult? What is he going to do? Is he going to face 3,000 evil spirits alone? Those are Earth Emperor stage evil spirits. The Sky Pride's hearts tightened. Boom. At this moment, a bolt of lightning flashed across the sky. At first, no one took it seriously, because the battle in the sky was between thearchs. It was not surprising that such a phenomenon would occur. Lightning Tribulation Array. Rise. Walking to the center of the Tao Exchange stage, Ning Tian squatted down and touched the ground with his hand. In an instant, a faint light flashed across his hand. Then, a huge array was instantly drawn on the Tao Exchange stage. Instant array formation. Could it be that he's also an array master? Seeing this scene, the Sky Pride's eyes flashed with a hint of shock. The legendary ancestral master of the Tianma cult was becoming more and more mysterious. After the array was drawn, Ning Tian's face revealed a satisfied smile. Next, he would use the Lightning Tribulation spiritual meridians to inject Lightning Tribulation spiritual chi into the array to activate the entire Lightning Tribulation array. Crackle. A bolt of lightning flashed on Ning Tian's body. Then, more and more bolts of lightning appeared. In an instant, 199 Lightning Tribulation spiritual meridians appeared. Boom. The powerful Lightning Tribulation spiritual meridians continuously injected spiritual chi into the array. In an instant, the sky above the Lightning Tribulation array was covered with dark clouds and lightning flashed. 199 Lightning Tribulation spiritual meridians? Seeing this scene, the Sky Prides were already so shocked that they were speechless. Soul Extinguishing Technique, Trap Array. Activate. Ning Tian silently said in his heart. In an instant, the Soul Extinguishing Technique was activated. The 3,000 evil spirits were controlled by an irresistible force and were directly trapped on the Tao Exchange stage. Let the show begin. A smile appeared on Ning Tian's face as he snapped his fingers. Lightning Tribulation Array. Activate. Smack. A crisp sound rang in everyone's ears. Then, they saw bolts of lightning falling from the sky above the Tao Exchange stage. Boom. The lightning was like a dragon. These were not the real lightning tribulations of heaven and earth. It was just the spiritual chi in the Lightning Tribulation spiritual meridians that activated the lightning formed by the Lightning Tribulation array. But even so, it was still fatal to these evil spirits. Lightning Tribulation. It was what the evil spirits were afraid of. Boom. Bolts of lightning suddenly fell, and below them was a group of trapped evil souls. What happened next left both the elders of the heavenly demon cult and the group of prodigies stunned. They saw that the lightning continued to fall, and the evil spirit screams continued to ring out. Ah, 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 woo woo. In the Lightning Tribulation array, after the evil spirits were killed, they turned into a wisp of black gas and dissipated, leaving behind only their spiritual chi that quietly flowed into the soul origin orb in Ning Tian's hand. These were all extremely nutritious items. I'll give you freedom, and you give me a hand. This is not too much, right? Ning Tian's eyes flashed. Being trapped in the ghost destruction map was a fate worse than death, and they still didn't let him help them. Boom. In the blink of an eye, 30 to 40% of the 3,000 evil spirits were lost. High in the sky, the Emperor Realm battles continued. The Shadow Demon Elder and the other Emperor Realm experts were suppressed by Luo Wuqing. What? Is this all you can do? Luo Wuqing's tone was relaxed as he looked at them indifferently. With this little ability, you dare to force me to abdicate? You're courting death. Damn it. The Shadow Demon Elder gritted his teeth. The Empress had never shown her true strength. He just didn't expect her strength to be so powerful. Boom. A thunderous sound rang out. The Emperors subconsciously looked down and saw that the 3,000 earthly king realm evil spirits in the ghost destruction portrait were actually trapped in a formation by a single person, and they were constantly being refined. What? It's that kid. Elder Gue Mie's face was extremely ugly. Luo Wuqing looked at Ning Tian below, and the corners of his mouth lifted slightly, revealing a stunning smile. Immediately, he looked at the 5 Emperor Realm experts and said indifferently, "Next, the 5 of you can die." Chapter 37. As his voice faded away, Luo Wuqing's delicate body flickered with spiritual energy. Then, a terrifying aura swept over. Boom! An aura came straight at them. "Be careful!" Shadow Demon Old Man roared. His expression was ferocious as he hurriedly circulated his spiritual energy to resist. Seeing this, the other four Thearchs followed suit. They had to take the power of the Arch seriously. "Can you resist it?" Luo Wuqing's lips curled up slightly. She flipped her jade-like hand, and a wisp of demonic aura circulated. Then, she struck out a palm. Boom! A giant demonic aura palm that was dozens of meters in size blasted out. "This is Heavenly Demon Palm." Shadow Demon Old Man and the other four Thearchs narrowed their eyes and used all their means to protect themselves. Bang! One palm. It landed on the five of them. Although they were prepared, the five of them were still sent flying by the palm and crashed into a mountain in the Tianma cult. Boom! In an instant, the mountain collapsed. Hiss! Such strength! On the stage, a group of people was shocked. She sent five the Archgod experts flying with one palm. This was Empress Luo Wuqing. Puff! Except for Shadow Demon Old Man, the other four spat out a mouthful of blood. They were only Emperor-to-be and could not resist the Arch at all. "Shadow Demon, didn't you say that Luo Wuqing's strength was not so strong? Didn't you say that we could deal with her? But now..." Lady Snake Scorpion gritted her sharp silver teeth and stared at Shadow Demon Old Man. "How would I know that she suddenly became stronger?" Shadow Demon Old Man was also extremely embarrassed. According to the intelligence, Luo Wuqing was only a 9-star the Archgod. He thought that 1 7-star and 4 3-star Thearchs, as well as the martial weapon and immortal weapon, should be enough to deal with her. But now, something unexpected had happened. Luo Wuqing's strength was not only a 9-star, but a peak. As long as Luo Wuqing could get the guidance to God, she could become a god on the spot. There was a huge gap between that and the strength of a 9-star immortal. "All right, everyone, stop arguing. Now, we can only fight to the death," Elder Hun Mie said with a frown. "Now, if we don't unite and have internal strife, we will be the ones to die." Elder Hun Mie is right. The other four nodded. Now that there was a difference of opinion, only death awaited. "Use your immortal weapons," the Shadow Devil Old Man said with a heavy expression, following which, the five of them struggled out of the mountain and flew into the sky again. The five emperors faced Luo Wuqing once again. "Luo Wuqing, you forced us to do this. Everyone, use your immortal weapons." Shadow Demon Old Man roared. The five immortal weapons moved and were about to attack. At this time, a light voice floated from below. "Wife, you can do it. Beat these 5 old bastards up." The Shadow Demon Old Man and the 5 emperors were stunned and looked down. They then realized that the legendary patriarch of the Sky Demon cult had brought a chair to them at some point in time. He was holding an apple in his hand and watching them leisurely, while a thunderbolt array in front of him had already refined all 3,000 evil souls in the Ghost Destruction portrait. "What? This brat? F***A. So F***King angry." In the sky, the 5 emperors were so angry that they almost vomited blood. "This is a battlefield. You brat, you are eating an apple leisurely and watching the show? What the F***ck? When did the patriarch refine all 3,000 evil souls?" Seeing this scene, the surrounding group of people were dumbfounded. They were all watching the battle in the sky. None of them noticed that Ning Tian had used only a few minutes to refine all 3,000 evil souls. "Damn, the patriarch is awesome." The group of supreme talents scratched their heads in confusion. It happened too suddenly. Although they saw the Thunder Calamity Array, they did not expect that it would be refined in just a few minutes. Hee. Ning Tian waved at the Thunder Calamity Array with satisfaction. Instantly, the array disappeared and the Soul Origin bead in his hand shone even brighter. "This is the Soul Origin bead?" Elder Hun Mie's pupils shrank and his eyes were filled with greed. Naturally, He knew that this thing was a great tonic. At this moment, Elder Hunmia suddenly saw Ning Tian waving the soul origin bead in his hand and smiled at him. Old man, thank you for the 3,000 evil souls. You. Elder Hunmia was stunned. Then, he felt his face turn red and his chest was squeezed. Puff. In the next moment, he spat out a mouthful of blood. He was already injured by Luo Wuqing. Now that he was angered by Ning Tian, his old injury relapsed and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this scene, the group of people was shocked. A dignified God Emperor expert was angered to the point of spitting out blood? Luo Wuqing raised the corner of his mouth slightly. Looking at Ning Tian, who was biting an apple on the stage, he could not help but feel amused. This guy did not seem to be afraid of facing a God Emperor expert. Elder Hunmia, calm your Dao heart. What we need to do now is to deal with Luo Wuqing. Shadow Demon Old Man glanced at Elder Hunmia and frowned. Then, the immortal weapon in his hand flashed. Everyone, let's do it. Shadow Blade attack. After his voice faded, Shadow Demon Old Man took the lead to attack. With the immortal weapon in his hand, he activated the immortal weapon technique. The black shadow converged into a blade, and in an instant, it attacked Luo Wuqing. It seems that we can't fall behind. Almost at the same time, Lady Snake Scorpion took out her immortal weapon. It was the black scorpion she was playing with before. Go, Poisonous Sky Scorpion. The poisonous Sky Scorpion fell from her hand. In an instant, it turned into 100 meters in size and landed heavily on the ground. Rumble. The ground shook. The poisonous scorpion tail swung violently at Luo Wuqing. At this moment, Wei Yinyang and Snake Venom Tai also held their immortal weapons and attacked at the same time. 4 God Emperors with immortal weapons attacked Luo Wuqing. Everyone's eyes turned to look at him. However, no one noticed that Elder Hunmia had launched an attack as well, but his attack was aimed directly at Ning Tian, who was on the Dao Exchange platform. Haha, kid, you must die. Elder Hunmia laughed strangely. What? At this moment, many people exclaimed in surprise. They all felt that Elder Hunmia's behavior was shameless. A dignified God Emperor expert attacked a spirit-detecting realm expert. This old guy. Shadow Demon Old Man's expression changed slightly. Without Elder Hunmia, their chance of winning was reduced. But at this moment, they could only fight with all their might. You're courting death. An indifferent voice sounded between the heavens and the earth. Luo Wuqing's God Emperor aura erupted. He raised his hand and pressed down on the 4 God Emperors. In an instant, under the God Emperor aura, the 4 God Emperors' attacks were unbearable. The black shadow blade shattered instantly. The poisonous sky scorpion that was hundreds of meters in size was beaten back to its original form. With a crack, it shattered. No, my poisonous sky scorpion. Lady Snake Scorpion screamed and recalled her immortal weapon with heartache. Luo Wuqing defeated the 4 God Emperors with 1 palm. However, no one noticed because they were looking at the stage. There, Elder Hunmia was only dozens of meters away from Ning Tian. Chapter 38. Patriarch, I'm here to save you. With a loud roar, the Supreme Elder rushed towards Ning Tian. It's the Supreme Elder. The Supreme Elder is at the peak of the heavenly venerable stage. As long as he can stall Elder Hunmia for a while, the Empress will arrive. A glint flashed in the eyes of the Sky Demon Cult's elders when they saw the Grand Elder appear. As long as they could stall him, Elder Hunmia would not succeed. A mere heavenly venerable dares to stop me? Humph! Elder Hunmia snorted. With a wave of his hand, his arch aura erupted and instantly sent the Supreme Elder flying. There was no pause throughout the entire process. The gap between the heavenly venerable stage and the arch stage was still huge. Boom! Elder Hunmia's aura erupted. In the blink of an eye, he rushed towards Ning Tian. Not good. Patriarch is finished. Many of the heavenly demon cult's disciples and elders were burning with anxiety at the sight. Many of the surrounding sky prides shook their heads and sighed. This guy. In the sky, Luo Wuqing's eyes flashed with anxiety. Her heart, which was originally as calm as water, began to fluctuate for some reason. Following that, a majestic voice rang out. Hunmia, if you dare to hurt him, the Emperor will definitely destroy your soul. Boom. Everyone was shocked. Elder Hunmia's expression changed when he heard that. However, at this time, he could not care too much. Let's kill this kid first. In an instant, black gas circulated and flickered in front of Ning Tian. Ning Tian's body shook violently when he was enveloped by the arch-stage aura. When he heard Luo Wuqing's words, he was somewhat moved. It seemed that he still had some weight in this cheap wife's heart. You old man. Ning Tian's eyes flashed with killing intent. At this moment, Elder Hunmia was very close to him. Traces of blood had already appeared on his body. His body could not withstand the arch-stage aura. Now, there was only one choice left for him. Kaka brat, you will die today. Elder Hunmia rushed over. He had already come up with a plan. After killing this brat, he would instantly use the soul explosion technique to pull away. As long as he could join up with the shadow demon old man and the others, Luo Wuqing wouldn't be able to kill him. The plan was set. Die, brat. In an instant, Elder Hunmia was only half a step away from Ning Tian. That powerful aura caused Ning Tian's skin to split open and blood flowed out. Everyone's hearts were hanging tightly at this moment. Was the legendary patriarch of the Tianma cult going to die under this palm? Old man, I'm waiting for you to come closer. Suddenly, Ning Tian jerked his head up. There was blood at the corner of his mouth, and his eyes were ferocious. He roared in his heart, System, activate the Great Emperor skill card. I'm going to kill this old man. Skill card, Emperor's Strike. Activate. Boom. At this moment, a burst of Great Emperor's aura suddenly erupted from Ning Tian's body. Then, everyone saw a huge golden shadow appear behind Ning Tian. That vigorous aura was the aura of a great emperor. What? This is the aura of a great emperor. Patriarch. Patriarch has summoned the aura of a great emperor. In an instant, everyone was enveloped by the aura of a great emperor. Boom. Everyone knelt on the ground, and their eyes were filled with fanaticism. In the sky, the shadow demon old man and the others couldn't even breathe properly. Each of them looked at Ning Tian in shock. This brat, could it be that he's a great emperor? What the F***? Luo Wuqing's eyes flashed with astonishment. The aura of a great emperor didn't affect her at all, but she was still shocked. How could Ning Tian have the aura of a great emperor? Boom. Die, old man. Ning Tian looked crazy. Suddenly, he raised his hand and slammed it down on Elder Hunmia. Behind him, the Golden Light Emperor's shadow followed his movement and slammed its palm down. How is this possible? This brat, how could he be a great emperor? Elder Hunmia couldn't believe it, and his heart was in turmoil. It was too late for him to struggle now. Boom. Die. The shadow slammed its palm down. Elder Hunmia didn't even have time to scream before he was killed. Everyone looked at the place where the palm landed. Elder Hunmia's soul had disappeared completely, let alone his corpse. A 3-star emperor god was killed in front of everyone just like that. Hiss. Everyone present only felt their minds go blank, and their breathing became somewhat hurried. They couldn't believe that all of this was real. An emperor god expert wouldn't die so easily. However, that thick great emperor aura and the huge golden light shadow behind Ning Tian clearly told everyone that all of this was real. Ancestral Master. Everyone was so shocked that they couldn't speak. Suddenly, the golden light shadow dissipated, and Ning Tian's body became wobbly. Just as he was about to fall to the ground, a fragrant wind blew over. Then, his body came into contact with something soft. Ning Tian's head was placed on Luo Wuqing's chest. He raised his head slightly and saw Luo Wuqing's worried face. Hee. Wife. After saying this, he blacked out and fainted. Ancestral Master? Ancestral master? Seeing this scene, many disciples and elders of the Tianma cult were worried. It's okay, he just fainted because he was too tired. Luo Wuqing checked Ning Tian's injuries and heaved a sigh of relief when he found that there were no major problems. Phew! Hearing Luo Wuqing's words, the group of disciples and elders heaved a sigh of relief. In their hearts, they were all shocked by the scene just now. The ancestral master was too fierce. After Luo Wuqing handed the unconscious Ning Tian to the Supreme Elder, she looked at the four people in the sky, and a trace of killing intent flashed in her beautiful eyes. Everyone understood that this great emperor was also angry. Cough, cough. Great Empress, all of this is just a mistake. Wei Yinyang coughed dryly and smiled at Luo Wuqing. But before he finished speaking, Luo Wuqing raised her hand and smashed his body into pieces with a palm. Hiss! At this moment, Shadow Devil Old Man, Lady Snake Scorpion, and Snake Venom Tai were all shocked. Then, they all turned to run. Want to escape from the Emperor's hands? Is it possible? Luo Wuqing's eyes flashed with a cold light, and a light blue longbow appeared in her hand. A mortal artifact, God-slaying bow. She pulled the bow and shot out 2 arrows in an instant. Boom! 2 rays of blue-gold holy light appeared and turned into 2 arrows that pierced through the clouds. They directly shot through the bodies of Lady Snake Scorpion and Snake Venom Tai. Their bodies split open, and the souls inside were killed. Shadow Devil Old Man took this opportunity to use the blood escape technique, sacrificing half of his blood essence and disappeared. In just a short moment, 4 God Emperor powerhouses, 1 escaped and 3 died. A group of geniuses looked at this scene in shock. Their eyes were full of horror. Luo Wuqing took the unconscious Ning Tian from the Supreme Elder's hands and said lightly, Supreme Elder, now that the God Emperor powerhouses of the 4 sects have been eliminated, go and destroy them. Chapter 39. Destroy the 4 sects? Hearing Luo Wuqing's words, the Supreme Elder's heart skipped a beat. Then, he nodded vigorously. The 4 sects, other than the God Emperor powerhouses, did not have any other powerhouses. Without the God Emperor powerhouses, destroying them would be a piece of cake. I understand, Your Majesty. Luo Wuqing nodded faintly. Then, he carried Ning Tian in his arms and walked towards the depths of the Tianma cult. The group of Sky Prides was shocked. Although the Heavenly Demon cult did not show any signs of wanting to lead the demonic path, it was a fact that they would take the top spot after today. The Sky Prides all left, wanting to inform the forces behind them of this news. Yaoqi Saintess looked in the direction where Luo Wuqing and Ning Tian left. Her eyes flashed, but she did not say anything. Given the current situation, she could only come back another day. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. In these 3 days, Ning Tian was in a coma, and Luo Wuqing had been taking care of him carefully. Outside, however, something shocking was happening. It shocked the entire Tianling region. The Shadow Demon Old Man, who ranked second in the demon sect, led the 4 God Emperors to the Tianma cult to force them to abdicate. But however, the outcome was shocking. Out of the 5 God Emperors, only the Shadow Demon Old Man escaped with serious injuries. This made many forces in the Tianling region recognize the strength of the Tianma cult and the strength of the Empress. As for Ning Tian summoning the God Emperor's power and killing Elder Hunmia, many leaders were shocked. However, they all agreed that Ning Tian did not have the strength of a God Emperor. Perhaps he was using some self-defense method given to him by the Empress. But even so, the name of the legendary patriarch of the Tianma cult had spread throughout the Tianling region, and in 3 days, the Supreme Elder of the Tianma cult led his men and wiped out the 4 sects that had lost their God Emperors. From then on, the 4 sects had completely disappeared from the Tianling region. South of the Heavenly Spirit region, Righteous Alliance. Alliance leader, this Luo Wuqing is a bit strong. Elder Jin Mei's face was a little dignified. Now that the abdication had happened, everyone needed to take Luo Wuqing's strength seriously. Ridiculous. The Righteous Alliance master sneered. Luo Wuqing is already very strong. He is a peak god emperor, a great emperor expert. How can a few quasi-emperors provoke him? But Elder Jian Mei's eyes flashed with worry. He wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. I know what you want to say. The Righteous Alliance leader waved his hand and interrupted Jian Mei. Luo Wuqing is indeed very strong. But the Void God Heavenly Palace's Palace Master and I are both great emperors. We are not trash great emperors. Two great emperors against that girl. Do you think she can handle it? The Righteous Alliance leader coldly smiled. Everything is ready. We only need to wait for the Void God, Heavenly Palace's Palace Master to come out of seclusion. Great emperors. Jian Mei's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that the Alliance leader's strength had improved a lot. All right, I'm going to prepare to cultivate. By the way, send some disciples out to gain experience. If you encounter any demonic sect disciples, just kill them. The Righteous Alliance leader waved his hand. Yes. Elder Jian Mei nodded. Tianma cult, sacred pool. The sacred pool was a precious place in the Tianma cult to heal injuries. It was located in the sacred mountain. Ordinary people were not qualified to enter. At this moment, in the sacred pool, there was a huge jade stone in the middle. Ning Tian was lying in it. However, his body was not covered. He lay naked on the stone. There was a faint mist coming from the surface of the pool. It flowed into Ning Tian's body and healed his injuries. Ning Tian had been lying here for 3 days. However, his injuries had not healed. His body had been injured by Elder Hun Mie's Great Emperor aura. He had also suffered the consequences of a Great Emperor's attack. It was very destructive. If it was a normal person, they would have died. Fortunately, the Thunder Spirit Meridian in his body was strong enough. Moreover, he had the Heavenly God constitution. Therefore, he barely survived. Woo! At this moment, Ning Tian suddenly let out a whimper. He gradually regained consciousness. However, the pain in his body continued to stimulate him. This made him sigh in his heart. Sigh, this time. I'm almost done for, patter. At this moment, there was a sound of footsteps outside the sacred pool. Ning Tian struggled to get up. However, no part of his body listened to his commands. A familiar fragrance wafted over. Is that my wife? Ning Tian was stunned. He used all his strength to turn his head to an angle where he could see the source of the sound. Sure enough, he saw Luo Wuqing in a white dress. She had a slim figure and was walking towards the sacred pool from outside the sacred mountain. Seeing her slightly furrowed eyebrows and worried expression, Ning Tian's heart warmed. He secretly laughed. This cheap wife of his was a typical example of a cold exterior but a warm heart. She hasn't woken up yet? Hearing Luo Wuqing's muttering, Ning Tian decided not to expose himself. When she came over, he would give her a surprise. Looking at the silent Ning Tian on the stone platform, Luo Wuqing frowned. Although Ning Tian was naked at the moment, Luo Wuqing's heart was as calm as still water. She looked straight ahead. Sigh. Luo Wuqing sighed faintly. There was a hint of disappointment in her voice. When Ning Tian heard this, he felt uncomfortable. He was about to speak, but suddenly he was stunned. He narrowed his eyes and stared at Luo Wuqing. He saw Luo Wuqing slowly took off her white dress. In an instant, her perfect body was exposed. Huh? What's going on? Ning Tian's heart was in a panic. At this moment, Luo Wuqing had already put her clothes on the shore. Then, her smooth little feet stepped into the sacred pool. She paddled the water and walked towards him step by step. Gulp. Ning Tian swallowed his saliva with difficulty. This was the first time he looked directly at Luo Wuqing's body. The last time, he was completely impulsive and did not have a specific impression. He had to admit that his cheap wife had a great body. As the fragrance approached, Ning Tian's heart beat wildly. He quickly closed his eyes. Splash, splash. Luo Wuqing stepped on the water. The warm water of the sacred pool slid across her skin. She walked in front of Ning Tian and prepared to use the water of the sacred pool to heal Ning Tian like before. After all, She had the sacred sun constitution and could use the healing aura of the sacred water. Taking off her clothes would only speed up the process. Huh. Suddenly, Luo Wuqing felt that something was wrong. She nodded doubtfully. Hearing this, Ning Tian, who was lying on the jade stone and pretending to be dead, felt his heart tighten. Had he been discovered? Soon, he heard Luo Wuqing's murmur. Why is this guy's heart beating so fast? Could it be that his injuries have worsened? As she spoke, Luo Wuqing placed her jade-like hands on Ning Mo's chest, wanting to sense the injuries in his body. It's over. When her cold hand touched him, Ning Tian knew that something was wrong. Then, a warm current came out from his nostrils. Chapter 40. Hee hee. Hearing Luo Wuqing's words, Ning Tian chuckled and immediately followed her. The unique fragrance of the Empress wafted over. Wife, where are you taking me? Just follow me. Luo Wuqing shook her head and did not explain. Hearing this, Ning Tian could only follow Luo Wuqing curiously. The two walked out of the holy pond and left the holy mountain. They walked toward a storage pavilion in the Tianma cult. Many elders and disciples were counting the spoils of war seized from the four sects after the war. Seeing Ning Tian and Luo Wuqing, they quickly stopped what they were doing and bowed respectfully. Greetings, Empress. Greetings, Founder. The eyes of these elders and disciples were filled with fanaticism as they looked at Ning Tian excitedly. A few days ago, the Founder summoned the phantom of the Great Emperor on the discussion platform and killed Elder Han Mie. Although many people saw it, the entire Tianma cult had heard about it. Who was Elder Han Mie? A divine emperor powerhouse. He was known as a quasi-emperor. He was killed by the phantom of the great emperor summoned by the Founder in one move. Even his body and soul were not left. Thinking of this, the hearts of these elders and disciples were beating wildly, and they were extremely excited. At this moment, in their hearts, Ning Tian was a god. Ding! In Ning Tian's mind, the system's beautiful electronic voice sounded. Faith energy detected. Does the host want to absorb it? Absorb? Ning Tian secretly said in his heart. Then, rays of golden light energy that only Ning Tian could see flew out from the elders and disciples and entered his body. Faith energy absorption +1. Faith energy absorption +1. Faith energy absorption +2. Faith energy absorption +1. Soon, all the faith energy was absorbed. Current faith energy storage, 30,100. What can I do if I gather 100? Ning Tian asked subconsciously in his mind. The system said, I can use a big move. Big move? It's really simple. Ning Tian nodded. What are you waiting for? Come in with me. Beside him, Luo Wuqing's voice came. After Ning Tian came to her senses, she hurriedly followed him. After the two entered the storage pavilion, the awe in the eyes of the elders and disciples slowly dissipated. In the storage pavilion, the great elder held a pen and paper in his hand and was counting things. Great elder, where are the 3 immortal artifacts? Luo Wuqing walked over and asked lightly. Hearing Luo Wuqing's voice, the elder stopped what he was doing quickly and quickly turned to look at the two respectfully and bowed. Your Majesty, Founder, you may. Luo Wuqing waved his hand and asked again, Great Elder, what about the 3 immortal artifacts? Your Majesty, it's in the basement of the Martial Scripture Pavilion, the Great Elder said carefully. Okay, got it. Luo Wuqing nodded and led Ning Tian to the basement of the storage pavilion. The basement of the storage pavilion was generally the place where the Tianma cult's weapons were stored. Wife, why did you bring me here? Ning Tian looked at the weapons around. There were treasured artifacts and spirit artifacts. He couldn't help but feel a little puzzled. Luo Wuqing didn't speak and walked to the deepest part of the basement. There, in the stone wall, 3 cold lights flashed. That was an immortal artifact. Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes fell on the 3 immortal artifacts. These are the immortal artifacts seized from the 4 sections. This time, you have done a meritorious service. Choose one of these 3 immortal artifacts. Choose an immortal artifact? Ning Tian's eyes lit up. An immortal artifact was a good thing. He looked at the stone wall. The 3 immortal artifacts shimmered. The first was a long spear. The tip of the spear flickered with cold light, and the tail of the spear was like a coiling dragon. It was a low-rank immortal artifact, the coiling dragon spear. The second was a defensive-type armor. It was as black as ink and indestructible. It was a low-rank immortal artifact, the black tortoise shell. The third was a sword. It was red all over, like a raging flame. Middle-rank immortal artifact. Its name was Red Firmament. These 3 immortal artifacts could be used for both offense and defense. They were all excellent items. Hee. Ning Tian's eyes lit up. He looked at Luo Wuqing and chuckled. Wife, I don't know if you've heard of a principle? Huh. Luo Wuqing was stunned and looked at him indifferently. Say it. Only children make choices. I want all of them. Oh? Luo Wuqing's lips curled up slightly. You mean, you want all 3 immortal artifacts? Ning Tian nodded. Yes, yes. Unfortunately, with your current strength, you can't use all 3 immortal artifacts. Luo Wuqing shook his head and said faintly, even if I want to give them to you, with your current strength, you can't use them. Ning Tian, okay. Then I choose Red Firmament. After all, among the 3 immortal artifacts, only the Red Firmament sword was a middle-rank immortal artifact, and it could be used with the sword intent martial arts that he had just learned. Among the 3 immortal artifacts, it was the most suitable one for him. Choose Red Firmament? Hearing this, Luo Wuqing's lips curled up slightly, and a trace of ridicule flashed in his eyes. Ning Tian walked over and took the Red Firmament sword from the stone wall. Holding the Red Firmament sword was like holding a raging flame. Immediately, he began to drip his blood on it. After a few minutes, a cold light flashed on the Red Firmament sword. Ning Tian instantly grasped the Red Firmament sword. Is this an immortal artifact? Ning Tian showed a satisfied smile and was ready to perform a sword skill to see the power of the Red Firmament sword. But suddenly, he realized that something was wrong. How come the immortal artifact Red Firmament sword in his hand could only exert the power of a spiritual artifact? What's going on? Ning Tian was stunned. On the side, Luo Wuqing chuckled, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. This Red Firmament sword is an emperor artifact. It has a characteristic. What characteristic? Ning Tian's face was a bit ugly, looking at Luo Wuqing. With the master's strength, the grade of Red Firmament sword will also change. The stronger you are, the stronger Red Firmament sword will be. The weaker you are, the weaker Red Firmament sword will be. Luo Wuqing said lightly. The master's strength determines the grade of Red Firmament sword? Ning Tian was shocked. Doesn't that mean that it has no upper limit? You can say that. But this also means that its lower limit is also low. Everything depends on your strength. Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes fell on Ning Tian's body and said slowly, Well, I understand. Ning Tian was excited. This Red Firmament sword was far stronger than ordinary immortal artifacts. Since you're done choosing, let's go. After choosing the immortal artifacts, the two left the storage pavilion. At this time, the Great Elder seemed to have been waiting outside for a long time. After seeing the two, he took the initiative to greet them. Empress, the Saintess of the Jade Lake Sacred Ground, is here again. She wants to see you. Yaoqi Saintess? Luo Wuqing frowned slightly and immediately nodded. Wife, then I'll go first. At this moment, Ning Tian couldn't wait to try the power of this Red Firmament sword. Wait. Luo Wuqing looked at him and stopped him. What's wrong, wife? Luo Wuqing didn't speak, just took Ning Tian's hand and walked to a place. I have something to ask you. She looked at Ning Tian, and a light flashed in her eyes. That day, how did you get the Great Emperor's attack? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.